Chapter 10:18. Divine Body? Primer? Chu Luiwei was dazed when she heard that. This divine body is, after a cultivator breaks through the stage 9 and enters the godly realm, he can use the force of heaven and earth to refine his body and form a divine body. A normal cultivator's physical strength is limited, but a divine body is different. It has unlimited potential, and once a cultivator reaches the paragon stage, he will be immortal. Therefore, a divine body is very important to a cultivator. More importantly, once a cultivator reaches this stage, even if his physical body is destroyed, he can refine it again and reconstruct a divine body. Our physical bodies have been destroyed, and we are only left with a few souls. We relied on the force of heaven and earth to refine a divine body. As long as we awaken the divine body, Dabeo will be able to leave this place. Chu Luiwei blinked, and joy appeared on her face. That's a great thing. If my strength is able to help you, I will definitely do my best to help you. She knew that Dugu Mabao and the others were trapped here for some reason and couldn't leave. They could only come out for a short while during the red moon every month. Most of the time, they stayed in the desert in the dark. Now that Dugu Mabao had a divine body, they could come out in the future. The world was so big, where couldn't they go? This is a good thing, but there is a small problem with Dabeo. Lan Zhao's tone sounded like he was trying to hold back his laughter. What problem? Chu Luiwei asked. Actually, it's nothing. When you rushed back to Xiling, he was anxious to help you, so he sped up the process of refining the divine body. Lan Zhao, if you don't want your tongue, I can pull it out for you. Dugu Mabao's voice was filled with murderous intent. But I won't say any more. You can tell you or yourself. Lan Zhao begged for mercy, and it was rare that he didn't fight with Dugu Mabao. This made Chu Luiwei feel even more strange. This divine body was so important. Since it had been refined, what other problems could there be? Why does Lan Zhao sound like this has something to do with me? She thought for a moment and said, Senior, where is your divine body now? What should I do to wake him up? Just as he finished speaking, the waves on the surface of the water suddenly became bigger. Then, a whirlpool appeared in the center of the sapphire lake. The ripples spread out in all directions, and the center gradually caved in. A cocoon suffused with a faint purple light slowly rose from within. A divine and powerful pressure faintly came from above. Just by standing there, Chu Luiwei already felt a stifling feeling in his chest. The origin power in his body suddenly slowed down at this moment. This was the aura of an absolute crushing powerhouse. Chu Luiwei was secretly shocked. This was just a divine body that had yet to awaken, yet it was already so terrifying. Who knew how astonishing Dugu Mabao's true strength was? At this moment, a gentle yet powerful energy suddenly gushed out from the water droplet in her body, entering her limbs and bones. That oppressive feeling dissipated by a lot. However, Chu Luiwei still held her breath and looked ahead without blinking, not daring to miss a single thing. My divine body is inside here. For some reason, Dugu Mabao's voice sounded even more awkward. Later, you just need to prick your index finger and inject some origin power into it. Chu Luiwei nodded slightly. Okay. Then, the cocoon of light flew toward Chu Luiwei. Perhaps Dugu Mabao had purposely restrained his aura, so Chu Luiwei did not feel any stronger pressure. With the support of the water droplet's power, she could barely stand still. At this moment, Chu Luiwei thought of a problem. Why does this cocoon of light look a little small? Since it's a divine body, it shouldn't look like this. This thought flashed through his mind. Soon, the cocoon of light floated to a step away from Chu Luiwei. There was a faint layer of purple on the cocoon of light, which was magnificent and beautiful. It was a blur inside, and she could not see it clearly. Chu Luiwei did not think much of it. She bit her index finger, and a dark red blood droplet quickly appeared. Then, the blood droplet seemed to be guided by some kind of power. It left Chu Luiwei's fingertip and floated toward the cocoon of light. Of course, at the same time, it contained an extremely rich origin power. The blood droplet quickly landed in the middle of the cocoon of light. The moment it touched the cocoon of light, the blood droplet quickly disappeared. Then, with a buzzing sound, the cocoon of light suddenly shone brightly. Chu Luiwei instinctively raised her hand to cover her eyes. The purple light shone brightly. Crack. Chu Luiwei clearly heard the sound of something breaking. When the light gradually dissipated, she looked up and looked ahead. With one look, she was stunned on the spot. The cocoon of light had disappeared. It was as if a layer of gauze had been lifted, and she could finally see the situation inside. A child who looked to be 3 or 4 years old was quietly floating in the air. His small face was fair and cute, pink and chubby. His eyelashes were unbelievably thick and slightly curled. He had short purple hair that was fluffy and soft. When the breeze blew, it gently fluttered. As if sensing Chu Luiwei's gaze, he suddenly opened his eyes. A pair of purple eyes. They were so beautiful that they were almost demonic. The two of them looked at each other. He frowned, and his expression was fierce. "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen it before?" This sentence was originally very imposing, but it was a pity that the voice was too cute and did not have much deterrence. Chu Luiwei came back to her senses, stretched out her hand and pointed. Dabao, you're not wearing clothes." Chapter 10:19. Dugamabao's face froze for a moment. Then, Chu Luiwei saw his face turn red at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as though blood was dripping out. Boom! A purple flame suddenly exploded in front of Chu Luiwei. She immediately retreated and narrowly avoided it. A strand of hair on her forehead was burnt, emitting a faint burnt smell. The little person opposite her was quickly covered in a layer of faint purple light. Then he waved his little hands. When the light dissipated, he had already changed into a purple robe. The robe was very exquisite. Under the sunlight, it reflected a faint glow and looked more like a soft armor. Chu Luiwei looked at the scene in front of her with a complicated expression. Originally, this appearance was supposed to be majestic and dignified, but unfortunately, Dabao's image had completely collapsed in her heart. Ha ha! A burst of loud laughter suddenly erupted from the lake. "Dabao! Ha! You didn't wear any clothes when you saw you, Ha!" Lan Xiao always spoke casually like an immortal. This was the first time Chu Luiwei heard such a forthright laugh from him. The corner of her eyes twitched slightly. I seem to have laughed a little too loudly." Indeed, the more Lan Xiao laughed, the more gloomy Dabao's face became. Her face, which was originally red, immediately turned black and red. The newly condensed godly body didn't wear any clothes, but he was careless just now and forgot about it. Moreover, the process was very difficult. The 3 of them had been trapped here for many years, and he was the first to succeed. "You haven't even condensed half a godly body. What right do you have to laugh here?" Dabao gritted his teeth and said. Lan Xiao didn't sense the danger at all. Instead, he laughed even harder. "Ha ha, but you didn't wear any clothes. Ha! Are you done laughing?" Dabao said each word coldly as if there was endless pressure. "Ha!" Lan Xiao's voice stopped abruptly. There was a sudden explosion in the lake. Then, the surroundings finally quieted down. The whirlpool in the lake quickly recovered, leaving only a few ripples. Dugamabao's back was facing Chu Luiwei. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. However, he did not turn around for a long time. The atmosphere was very awkward. "Dabao!" Chu Luiwei stood still for a while. Seeing that he still hadn't moved, he couldn't help but call out to him. Dugamabao resigned himself to his fate and turned around. "What?" He raised his chin slightly and asked coldly with an expressionless face. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows seemed to carry a hint of impatience. Chu Luiwei shifted his gaze. The expression on his little face had already returned to normal, but there was still a trace of redness on his ears that had not yet faded. He looked like a child who had done something wrong and refused to admit his mistake. This way, even if they knew that he had a divine body, the threat he posed was still zero. Chu Luiwei held back his laughter and said with a very serious and sincere expression, "Dabao, did I help you?" Only then did Dabao's expression soften a little. He turned his face and looked into the distance. After a moment, he responded with an Chu Luiwei smiled, his eyes curved. "That's good. However, can I ask, why can I help you like this?" Chu Liyue's eyes were filled with curiosity. Although she had broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and even had a strand of divine power stored in her body, it didn't seem like it was the turn of a cultivator of her level to awaken a divine body, right? Why didn't she know that she was so powerful? Dugumabao frowned. Of course it's because of you, it's you. Chu Liyue was stunned. What did he mean by that? Dugumabao glanced at her and saw her blank expression. He suddenly remembered that she had forgotten those things. He opened his mouth, but when the words reached his mouth, he changed his mind. After the divine body is successfully condensed, a certain amount of divine power is needed as a primer. Coincidentally, you have a strand of divine power in your body, so... Chu Liyue's eyes flickered as she smiled faintly. I have divine power, and it's something that only happened recently. Could it be that you already knew at that time, so you got Xue to deliver the news? Dabao and the other two were indeed powerful, but they couldn't leave the Red Moon Desert, so it was impossible for them to know about these things so quickly. In other words, they must have made this plan long ago. Then it definitely wasn't because of the divine power in her body. Dugumabao choked and immediately said, You misheard. You heard wrong. I was talking about the heavenly energy. You had it in your body before, didn't you? Chu Liyue smiled but didn't say anything. The two of them were standing face to face, so of course she couldn't have heard wrongly. Moreover, there were 3 strands of heavenly Dao power in her body. One was obtained when she broke open the Tianling God realm, and the other 2 were obtained from the legendary 3-eyed eagle and dumpling. However, she was very tactful and didn't continue asking. Dugumabao obviously didn't want to answer this question directly now, so there was no point in asking anymore. Thus, she nodded to show that she understood and changed the topic. Oh right, just now, Senior Lan Xiao said that you seem to have only... When Lan Xiao said, a small problem, he was probably referring to Dugumabao's divine body being too young. Even though he always sounded like a child, Chu Liyue definitely didn't believe that Dugumabao was a real 3-year-old child. This matter seemed to have something to do with her? Dugumabao frowned and returned to his usual expressionless face. It has nothing to do with you. Suddenly, a chuckle sounded beside his ear. Girl, don't listen to his excuses. Chu Liyue was stunned. This was Lan Zhao's voice. She looked up and saw that Dugumabao didn't seem to have any reaction. Girl, don't worry. You can't hear this. We still have the ability to do that. You just have to listen to me. Chu Liyue lowered her eyes and listened quietly as if she was thinking about something. However, she was actually listening to Lan Xiao. He doesn't want to tell you these things, but I have to tell you. Lan Xiao stopped teasing her and became much more serious. We already know that you were harmed by that adulterous couple. Back then, you returned to Xiling to take revenge, right? Actually, at that time, we also wanted to help you and support you. Unfortunately, the 3 of us were trapped here and couldn't leave. Only by condensing a divine body could we break out of this cage. You should also be able to see that Big Bao is the strongest among us. He can also condense a divine body the fastest. In fact, he still needed 3 years to succeed, but at that time, in order to help you, he decided to forcefully break through. Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat as she vaguely guessed something. Lan Xiao sighed softly. He broke through in advance. Although he barely succeeded, it's a pity that in the end he really became like this. Once the divine body is condensed, it's hard to change. Chapter 1020. Chu Liyue's heart shuddered violently. Didn't this mean that Dabao might be like this for the rest of his life? A person's life was extremely long, let alone someone like Dabao who had already stepped into the god realm and condensed a godly body. Although he looked cute now, he wasn't a real child. If he was trapped in the godly body of a 3-year-old forever, it would be an extremely torturous thing for anyone. Shoo, don't let him see that you already know. Lan Xiao sighed. Even Di Wu and I didn't know about this decision at first. If it wasn't for the failure, if it wasn't for the fact that we almost failed and woke us up, we wouldn't have known. He refused to tell you about this, and he didn't let us mention it either. But I don't think we should hide this from you. I'm not saying this to make you feel grateful to him, but to let you know. Although some people choose to betray you, there are also people who will always be on your side. even if you have to pay a huge price. This was the first time Chu Luiwe heard Lan Xiao speak so seriously. There seemed to be something surging in her chest. Her heart was hot and swollen, and even her limbs and bones seemed to have warmed up. She closed her eyes and hid the bitterness in them. When she looked up again, she had already regained her smile. No matter what, Dabeo, I'm very happy to be able to help you. Since he had already condensed a godly body, Duga Mabao was a free man. After being trapped in the Red Moon Desert for so many years, he was still not used to it when he suddenly came out, especially in his current state. It took him a long time to gradually convince himself to ignore this point. After all, it was already very difficult to come out. After the two of them chatted for a while, Chu Luiwe asked a question that had been hovering in her heart for a long time. Dabeo, you know Rong Xiu, right? Dugu Mabao glanced at her. Chu Luiwe's eyes were calm. For you to be willing to let Xue deliver such important news, it's actually enough to prove this, isn't it? Hearing her name, Xue, who had been waiting patiently in the distance, became spirited. Then he heard Dugu Mabao's cold voice. It just so happens that I needed to look for you. It came by itself. It would be a waste not to use it. Xue shuddered. She wanted to cry but had no tears. How could he have come by himself? If it wasn't for the master's order, why would it come to this place? He really had no animal rights. Chu Luiwe paused. Duga Mabao's words didn't directly answer her question. She looked up slightly and smiled. Dabeo, you don't have to worry so much. I've already remembered many things. The things that happened with Rong Xiu in the Divine Ruins world. As soon as he said that, a trace of shock and surprise finally flashed through Duga Mabao's beautiful and bewitching purple eyes. You remember everything? When did this happen? Chu Luiwe calmed down. As expected, that cliff, that octagonal pavilion, it was indeed in the Divine Ruins world. And the person who played chess with her was indeed Rong Xiu himself. The two of them clearly knew each other in the Divine Ruins world. Actually, the things she remembered were limited. This sentence was just a test, and Dugu Mabao's answer just so happened to confirm her previous guess. I don't remember everything. I just remember a part of it. Chu Luiwe's mind raced. Since Dugu Mabao and the others knew about these things, it was obvious that they knew Rong Xiu. Then, it seemed reasonable to ask Xue for help. However, these people had never revealed anything to her before. So this time, I plan to personally make a trip to the Divine Ruins world. Dugu Mabao frowned, his pinkish-white face looking solemn. Now, don't tell me you don't know how dangerous it is to go to the Divine Ruins world with your current strength? Since I've been there before, why can't I go now? Dugu Mabao wanted to say something but hesitated. Naturally, it's because you were stronger than you are now. However, thinking about how she did have a lot of trump cards on her, perhaps it might not be impossible. He thought for a moment. I'll go with you. Before Chu Luiwe could react, Xue suddenly jumped up from afar. Roar! This ancestor wants to go with me? When the time comes, I'm afraid the sky will be overturned. Am I not welcome? Dugu Mabao glanced at it indifferently. Xue immediately lay down obediently. Hee, I'm just joking. How can I not welcome it? Chu Luiwe. With Rong Xiu's personality, how could he raise such an unprincipled beast like Xue? As if seeing through Chu Luiwe's thoughts, Xue looked at her sadly. Did she forget how it had been tortured before? Who could withstand that? You don't agree? Dugu Mabao asked Chu Luiwe. Although its tone was calm, its small face was filled with a clear, threatening aura. Chu Luiwe raised her hands in agreement. Of course I agree. She wasn't faking her agreement. She really felt that this was quite good. The Divine Ruins world was mysterious and unpredictable, and there were many strong people. Although she had been there before, she almost couldn't remember anything now. She was afraid that she would be in the dark when she arrived. If Dabeo could go with her, wouldn't it save her a lot of trouble? Besides, with such a strong person as her backing, she would indeed be more confident. Seeing Chu Luiwe's sincere expression, Dugu Mabao nodded in satisfaction. Then let's set off today. Chu Luiwe hesitated for a moment. Snapper? Diwu and Lan Xiao will take care of her here. Chu Luiwei thought about it. This was quite good. Although it might be a little difficult, it was indeed a rare opportunity for Snapper. Dugamabao was a strong person who had entered the god level. Diwu Zhangzi and Lan Xiao would probably not be too far off. If it were anyone else, they might not even be able to meet them. Chu Luiwei waved at Xue Xue. Xue Xue, we should go. When Xue Xue heard that, although it was a little unwilling, it still slowly moved over. It walked straight to Chu Luiwei's feet and quickly glanced at Dugamabao before leaning close to Chu Luiwei. Dumpling, who was squatting on Xue Xue's shoulder, finally couldn't help but snicker. Xue Xue glared at it angrily. You're the only one who didn't make it in time. You can try the power of this ancestor. Ignorant. A cold smile flashed across Dumpling's bright eyes. Then, it leaned its head and nestled in Chu Luiwei's shoulder. Did it think it was stupid? Of course, it could tell that Dugamabao was very strong and couldn't be offended. If it had its own master to rely on, why would it go to someone else to suffer? Xue Xue slowly widened its eyes. Its face was filled with grief and anger. In the end, it turned its head away angrily and didn't argue with it. It chose its own master. What could it do? Achoo! Rong Xiu suddenly sneezed. He rubbed his nose. Looks like a certain someone hasn't been living very well recently. Chapter 1021. Chu Luiwei had originally planned to look for Rong Xiu and ask him about what happened back then. After knowing about the existence of the Divine Ruins world, he also wanted to inquire about it. Now that he knew that he was there, he naturally saved a lot of effort. In the end, he decided to let Xue Xue bring them there. Xue Xue originally wanted to resist, but after knowing that Dugamabao was going with them, he gave up on the idea and obediently brought the two of them back. Of course, Xue Xue only carried Chu Luiwei. As for Dugamabao, he had already condensed a divine body, and his speed was only faster than Xue Xue's. Of course, he would travel alone. Thus, the two of them and the beast set off just like that. The Divine Ruins world is thousands of miles away from here. Even if we travel at full speed, it will take nearly 10 days. On the way, Dugamabao would occasionally answer Chu Luiwei's questions. Most of them were related to the Divine Ruins world. During the journey, Chu Luiwei also tried to ask him about what happened back then, but Dugamabao kept his mouth shut. After trying twice, Chu Luiwei simply gave up. If we use the teleportation array, will it take so long? Chu Luiwei asked. Dugamabao stepped on a purple short sword with his hands behind his back. He walked with the wind, his clothes fluttering. Of course, his expression was also very noble and cold. If one ignored his chubby face and his slightly protruding belly due to his two short hands clasped behind his back, he was still very imposing. Hearing Chu Luiwei's question, he snorted softly. There is no teleportation array between the Heaven's Canopy world and the Divine Ruins world. If you want to enter the Divine Ruins world, you must first reach the border of the Divine Ruins world and then enter through a different entrance. Chu Luiwei was a little surprised. After thinking for a while, he understood something. It seems that the people of the Divine Ruins world are really arrogant. They didn't even set up a teleportation array, which meant that they didn't intend to contact anyone from the outside world. If the people inside wanted to go out, there was nothing to say. However, if the people outside wanted to go in, they would have to cross thousands of rivers and mountains and go through many difficulties. Of course, Dugamabao said nonchalantly. Those who are able to establish themselves in the Divine Ruins world are the top clans of the continent. They have the right to be arrogant, so of course they think highly of themselves. Even if we reach the border, it won't be that easy to enter. Those entrances and exits are controlled by different sects and forces, and the security is extremely strict. As he spoke, Dugamabao glanced sideways at Chu Luiwei. If you are not from the Divine Ruins realm, if you want to enter, you have to be at least a stage 9 martial artist. With your current level, you won't be able to enter. Fortunately, you have a strand of divine power in your body. At that time, I might be able to force my way in. Chu Luiwei gently nodded and silently clenched his fists. Dugamabao's words were actually very objective. She indeed did not have that right now. Compared to the top powerhouses of the mainland, the current her was probably just an ant. The strong were respected. Only when she became stronger could she have the right to speak. Otherwise, she could only be trampled on by others. She did not even have the right to raise her head to look at others. Dugamabao seemed to have seen through her thoughts. His expression changed slightly, and his voice softened a little. Although your current level is not high, you have recovered the Tianjing Yuan Meridian and have several trump cards. You are not inferior to those disciples of the Divine Ruins world. Chu Luiwen knew that he was comforting her. Her eyes curved slightly as she nodded seriously. Yes, I know. After a moment of silence, she suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh right, I haven't asked. What clan does Rong Xiu belong to?" Previously, Rong Xiu had mentioned that his mother's clan was in the Heaven's Canopy world. Now it seemed that it was the Divine Ruins world. At that time, she vaguely felt that it should be a very large clan. It was just that she did not ask in detail, so she was not too sure. Since they were going to the Divine Ruins world now, they should have some understanding. Dugumabao's expression suddenly became a little strange. When we arrive, you will naturally know. Chu Luiwe was stunned. They were almost there, but Dugamabao was still keeping it a secret? But looking at his determined expression, she had no choice but to shrug her shoulders. All right. When we arrive, I will ask him personally. She also wanted to see how Rong Xiu would explain it when the time came. 10 days later, Chu Luiwe and Dugamabao finally arrived at the border of the Divine Ruins world. This was a vast plain that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was very similar to the Heaven's Canopy world. There was also a translucent silver curtain that descended from the sky. However, the pressure from above was much stronger than that of the Heaven's Canopy world. Vaguely, one could see the occasional silhouette of a person flashing past behind the curtain. That should be the person in charge of guarding the border of the Divine Ruins world. At this moment, Chu Luiwe already felt a little stuffy in her chest before they even got close. If not for the fact that she had already broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and had stored endless force and divine power in her body, she would probably have knelt on the ground at this moment. She looked around. On the boundless plain, there were not many people coming and going. Dugumabao retracted his aura and descended from the sky. From here on out, everyone will have to walk. Chu Luiwe nodded. Follow me. Dugumabao said and walked forward. Chu Luiwe quickly followed. The closer they got, the stronger the pressure. Chu Luiwe only felt that her shoulders were getting heavier and heavier, but fortunately, it was still within her tolerance range. When the two of them walked to a certain position, a figure suddenly flew out from the light curtain. At the same time, a huge rune appeared on the light curtain. This is the gate world of the Heavenly Cave Cliff. Who are you? Digression, 6 p.m. Chapter 1022. A God-level expert. The moment Chu Luiwe saw the other party, she immediately felt a heavy pressure. She clenched her fists in her sleeves and straightened her back. Then, she took a step forward and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "I am Duguyu. Greetings, sir." She did not report her identity as Shangguanyu or Chu Luiwe. Instead, she chose the same surname as Dabao and a fake name. She also wore a mask on her face and disguised herself as an ordinary woman. This was because she did not know what identity she had used when she came to the Divine Ruins world in the past. Moreover, she did not deliberately hide the fact that Chu Luiwe was Shangguanyu. If someone investigated, they would know. Therefore, on the way here, she had already discussed with Dabao that she would completely change her identity to make things easier. Lin Xiao, who was in charge of guarding the gate, sized up the woman in front of him. She looked to be around 20 years old and had an ordinary appearance. Only a pair of jet-black jade-like eyes could be seen as they moved. It was a pity that such eyes grew on such a face. But this was not the main point of his attention. Lin Xiao's expression was cold and solemn as he frowned. Those who are not from the Divine Ruins world, only those who have broken through to the 9th stage and stepped into the Divine Realm are qualified to enter. Are you enough? Between his words, there was a natural sense of superiority in his bones. It was not that he was deliberately looking down on Chu Luiwe, but that they had always been like this to people who were not from the Divine Ruins world. They were guarding this place and had to see countless people who wanted to enter the Divine Ruins world every day. Some of them had true ability and relied on their own strength to break through that threshold and obtain permission to enter, thus stepping into a new stage. But such people were few and far between. The cultivation environment outside the Divine Ruins world was very ordinary. Those who could reach this step were all geniuses among geniuses. Sometimes, an empire might not be able to produce such an expert in hundreds of years. Most of the rest of them were trying to sneak in by swindling and using underhanded methods. Therefore, the guards here, no matter which clan they were from, scoffed at such people. When he heard that Chu Luiwei was from the Tianling dynasty, he naturally did not pay much attention to her. How could such a young girl have such ability? She was most likely here to play. If it wasn't for the fact that she seemed to have some kind of divine artifact on her that concealed her aura and made it impossible to tell what level she was at, he wouldn't even ask this question. Chu Luiwei did not mind his impatience. She smiled and raised her hand. A brilliant and dazzling origin power appeared at her fingertips. Lin Zhao's originally lazy and impatient expression suddenly froze, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. This was divine power. You are a demigod? He looked at the woman in front of him in bewilderment and asked in disbelief. A demigod cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator. Just like Taizu back in the day. Lin Xiao asked this because he could see that the divine power the woman in front of him could use was limited. However, she did have divine power. In such a situation, she was basically a demigod. Dugamabao had told Chu Luiwei about this on the way here. Therefore, Chu Luiwei put away the ball of divine power, then smiled and nodded, taking advantage of the situation. I wonder if I am qualified to enter now? Of course, she was qualified to enter. Lin Zhao's expression changed, and the way he looked at Chu Luiwei again was very different from before. There was more respect. Is this your first time here? Chu Luiwei nodded. Those who are here for the first time have to register. Lin Xiao said and waved his wrist. A booklet appeared out of thin air. He opened the booklet and handed over a pen at the same time. You just need to write your name and the date. Chu Luiwei glanced at it. This booklet was not connected to an ordinary book. It was as heavy as a boulder. She almost couldn't hold it properly at first. The booklet had been opened, and what appeared in front of Chu Luiwei was a blank page. However, she could vaguely see that there were some names written on the front page, which were glowing with different colors. Chu Luiwei picked up the pen and wrote down her name. Dugyu. After writing, her wrist paused and she looked up at Lin Xiao. I wonder if this date, Xang Yuan calendar, year 3574, the 16th of September. Lin Xiao reminded her. Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat. The pen in her hand accidentally drew a line on the page. Lin Xiao frowned. What's wrong? Chu Luiwei immediately lowered her eyes. Nothing, it's just that. I feel that this calendar is a little strange. I've never heard of it before. Lin Xiao snorted with a hint of arrogance. You're not from the Divine Ruins world, so it's normal that you don't know about this. Remember, when you enter the Divine Ruins world in the future, follow this calendar. Chu Luiwei gripped the pen tightly, suppressed the waves in her heart, and wrote that line of words. Then, she handed over the booklet and pen, and smiled at him gratefully. Thank you for your reminder, sir. When she smiled, her eyes curved into crescents and her eyes shone brightly, adding a touch of charm to her originally ordinary appearance. Lin Xiao looked at her and couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Although her appearance was ordinary at first sight, after looking at her for a long time, she was quite good-looking. Her speech and actions were also quite elegant, making people have a good impression of her. He glanced at the booklet and nodded. You can go in now. Chu Luiwei thanked him and walked inside with Dugamabao. Wait! Lin Xiao suddenly reached out and stopped the two of them. Chu Luiwei was stunned. Lin Xiao raised her chin and glanced at Dugamabao beside her. You can go in, but he can't. Chu Luiwei frowned. But didn't I already have the qualifications? That's you, not him. Lin Xiao shook her head, her attitude firm. Neither of you are from the Divine Ruins world. If you want to go in, the standards are the same. As soon as the two of them arrived, Dugu Mabao retracted his aura, so he looked no different from an ordinary child. Chu Luiwei glanced at Dugu Mabao. He had already condensed his body, so of course he was qualified to go in. It was just that for some reason, he seemed to be a little afraid and unwilling to show his true strength. Can't we bring family members? Chu Luiwei asked, unwilling to give up. Look, he's still so young. Suddenly, a cold wind blew from the back of her head. Chu Luiwei coughed and winked at Dugu Mabao. Do you still want to go in? Lin Xiao glanced at the two of them and said coldly, don't worry. If you really can't you just hand the child over to his father? Why do you have to bring him along as his mother? Chapter 1023. Chu Liyue's mind went blank. This person seemed to have gotten something wrong? Before she could say anything, she felt a cold air that could freeze a person to death suddenly erupt beside her. She turned her head and saw that Dugu Mabao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Looking at his expression, Chu Luiwei was quick to react. She pressed his head with one hand and turned his face away. If he continued to look at me, I'm afraid that he would kill me with that gaze. Sir, you must be joking. Before Chu Luiwei could finish her explanation, Dugu Mabao grabbed Chu Liyue's wrist and turned his head stubbornly. Anyone who saw the expression on his little face would have noticed that something was wrong. Lin Xiao seemed to have noticed something. She turned her gaze and looked down. Chu Liyue bent down and quickly hugged Dugu Mabao with one hand and pressed his little head onto her shoulder with the other. Before Dugu Mabao could react, his whole body was suddenly lifted into the air and he fell into a warm and sweet embrace. He turned his little hand and was about to hit her, but he held himself back in the end. Sir, look, it's not easy for me to take care of a child alone. A trace of misery quickly appeared on her face. Although she was still smiling, it only made people feel bitter. I don't know where his father is now. Dugu Mabao struggled violently, but unfortunately, Chu Liyue hugged him tightly. On one hand, he did not want to use his strength. On the other hand, he was afraid that he would really hurt Chu Liyue if he made a move. He could only rely on his short and fat body to try his best. Unfortunately, it did not work. Dabao, be good, Chu Liyue softly coaxed him. Her arms secretly clamped his waist so that he could not move. At the same time, her palm gently patted his back as if she was really coaxing a child. When Dugu Mabao heard this, he finally gave up struggling and buried his face tightly into Chu Liyue's shoulder in despair. At this time, it was better not to show his face. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread out, his reputation would be completely ruined. Seeing that he had finally stopped, Chu Liyue secretly heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Lin Xiao pleadingly. Sir, please help us. Look, such a small child, if no one takes care of him. She had an aggrieved look on her face, which made one's heart ache. Lin Xiao's frown deeper, but she still waved her hand. There has never been a precedent like this before. How? Let them go in together. At this moment, a gentle voice came from behind them. Chu Liyue turned to look. The person who came was a young man who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. He was very handsome, and the color of his eyes was very light. There was a shallow crescent-shaped scar at the corner of his eye, which made his cold and distant temperament even more obvious. He wore a crescent-shaped white brocade robe and stood tall and straight. He deserved to be called an elegant young master. However, his face was very pale, especially his lips, which did not have any color in them. It looked as if he had been sick for a long time. It was as if a light touch would shatter like glass. However, Chu Liyue quickly realized that this person's aura was very strong. He was also a powerhouse who had stepped into the god realm. It seemed like he was also a demigod. When Lin Xiao saw the person who came, her expression changed and she immediately knelt down on one knee to greet him. Greetings, fourth young master. Cough. Cough, cough. The young man was about to say something but suddenly coughed. Lin Xiao quickly went forward, looking nervous. Fourth young master, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell again? The young man smiled faintly. My body has always been like this. I'm already used to it. He shook his head, indicating that he was fine, and pointed at Chu Luiyue and Lin Xiao. It's not easy for her to raise a child alone. No matter what, the child didn't commit any crimes. This child is only 3 years old, and he won't cause any trouble. It's fine to let him in. Why separate the mother and son over such a small matter? His tone was very calm, as if he was looking at Chu Luiyue and Lin Xiao, or as if he was recalling something. Lin Xiao did not dare to say anything. Everyone knew that the Heavenly Cave Cliff's matriarch had died in childbirth in order to give birth to the fourth young master, Lin Qifei. For many years, the fourth young master had been brooding about this. There were many rumors outside that the fourth young master was a freak who was born to jinx his mother to death. Although the higher-ups had always ordered that rumors were not to be spread, how could they control people's mouths? The fourth young master had more or less heard about it. This also caused his personality to be more sensitive, introverted, and indifferent. Under normal circumstances, he would not care about these things. Today, when he saw the scene of the mother and son being separated, he could not bear it, so he opened his mouth. Since the fourth young master has said so, then I will let them in. I hope the fourth young master can rest assured. Lin Xiao respectfully responded, and then said to Chu Luiyue, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and thank the fourth young master." Chu Luiyue immediately hugged a bow and thanked Lin Qifei with a face full of gratitude. "Thank you, fourth young master." Lin Qifei just waved his hand and said calmly, "It's nothing. It's not easy for you to come this far. When you enter the Divine Ruins world in the future, you must take good care of him." As he spoke, he looked at Dugu Mabao, who was still lying in Chu Luiyue's arms. "Although you are still young, I hope that you will be sensible soon and understand your mother's hard work." Chu Luiyue could clearly hear the sound of someone gnashing his teeth. She patted Dugu Mabao's head and smiled. "Fourth young master, please rest assured. Please rest assured, fourth young master. Our Dabao has always been the most sensible." Originally, she wanted him to thank Lin Qifei and act out the whole show. However, after thinking about it, Chu Luiyue gave up. She still wanted to leave herself a way out. It was not good to be too ruthless. Lin Qifei coughed a few more times, and it was getting more and more intense. In the end, he had to take out a handkerchief to cover it, but it still did not ease. Lin Xiao did not care about Chu Luiyue and asked nervously, "Fourth young master, why don't I go and ask someone to pick you up?" "Your body." Lin Qifei shook his head. "I'll go back myself. Why should I let father and the others worry?" After saying that, he moved and passed through the light screen. Chu Luiyue looked at his back and was slightly lost in thought. His illness seemed to be, "All right, stop looking. Why aren't you going in?" Lin Xiao sighed in his heart. He turned his head and saw that Chu Luiyue was still standing there in a daze. He hurriedly urged him, "It's your great fortune to have the fourth young master's help today. But at this time, you must not tell anyone. Do you understand?" Chu Luiyue repeatedly thanked him and promised that he wouldn't say anything more. Then, he carried Dabao and walked forward. With a single kick, he crossed the light screen. "What did you say?" Rong Xiu looked up from the booklet. "She has a child with her?" Yan Qing knelt on one knee, not daring to raise her head. "I heard that she got in as a widow and an orphan with fourth young master Lin's help." Rong Xiu was so angry that he laughed and threw the booklet down. "Orphan and widow?" Digression, the content of the event has already been released. Everyone can click on it and take a look. There are no restrictions on the content of the long comments. Character analysis, mini-dramas, confession of love for the month of February are all accepted. Don't hesitate. In these few days, the first batch of chosen children is about to be born. It might be you. In addition, if you have more than 10 monthly votes, you have a chance to win first place. You can also fight for more than 120 recommendation votes. If you think you have a chance, you can join the group and fight the final battle at the end of the month. It's so big. Chapter 1024. Yan Qing's head drooped even lower. "I knew that Madam was coming, but who would have thought that it would be like this? What does that child look like?" "I heard that it's a boy around 3 years old with purple hair and purple eyes. It's very easy to recognize him." "Purple hair?" Rong Xiu pondered for a moment, then suddenly thought of something. His slender fingers tapped on the table twice, and a look of understanding flashed across his eyes. After a moment, he chuckled. She sure has a big heart. She was the only one who dared to pretend to be his mother. However, from this, it could be seen that that person treated her differently. If it was anyone else, they would have already died 10,000 times. Sensing that the anger on Rong Xiu's body seemed to have dissipated a little, Yanqing raised his head and asked cautiously, "Then, Your Highness, next, there's no need to interfere. Xue is there to protect them. When they arrive, I will personally pick them up. Moreover, with that person around, who could bully her?" Although he was not very happy in his heart, since that person wanted to come, this was the only way. At this moment, Chu Liwei stepped through the light screen and stepped into the divine ruins world. As his feet stepped on the thick ground, Chu Liwei actually felt a sense of absent-mindedness. She calmed herself down and looked around. In front of her was still a vast plain. The sky was blue. At the place where the heavens and earth met, there was a city. The city was tall and grand, solemn and imposing. Outside the city, there was a huge barrier that enveloped it. Even from such a far distance, he could still feel the heavy pressure. That's the Heavenly Cave Cliff. Duge Mabao jumped down from Chu Liyue's embrace and spoke with a calm face. Heavenly Cave Cliff? Chu Liyue had already heard of this name several times before. Is it also a clan in the Divine Ruins world? Within the Divine Ruins world, there are no empires or dynasties, only sects and clans. The stronger the sect, the higher its status, and the more resources and treasures it could occupy. There are no laws here. The only rule was that the weak were prey to the strong, and the strong were respected. Chu Liyue was slightly shocked. Although it was just a few simple sentences, she could hear the thick smell of blood. There are many sects and clans in the Divine Ruins world, but there are also differences in strength. Grotto Heaven Cliff can barely be considered third-rate here. Chu Liyue was speechless. Third-rate? That young Master Lin from before had already stepped into the God realm at such a young age. Who would have thought that the family of such a person could only be considered third-rate? If this is only third-rate, then how powerful would the so-called first-rate be? Chu Liyue couldn't help but murmur. Although it's a third-rate sect in the Divine Ruins world, to be able to get a third-rate ranking means that you've already won against more than half of the sects and clans. You must know that the vast majority of sects and clans do not have the qualifications to send people to guard the entrance to the Divine Ruins. Duge Mabao glanced at her. Do you still remember the runes that appeared on the light screen just now? Chu Liyue nodded. That's the totem of Grotto Heaven Cliff. There are very few people who can engrave their own totem on the light screen of the Divine Ruins world. Chu Liyue understood. I understand. In other words, no matter how many times they are here, they are not people we can afford to offend. Duge Mabao, although he was expressionless with his chubby little face, he looked even cuter, especially those eyes that should have been filled with dignity and coldness. Because of the curly eyelashes that were too beautiful, they could not form any deterrence. Chu Liyue could not help but reach out to rub his hair. Speaking of which, your performance just now was pretty good. Sush. Duge Mabao immediately jumped 3 feet high and quickly retreated. He glared at Chu's hand as if facing a great enemy. What are you trying to do? If he wanted to do what he did just now, that was impossible. Chu Liyue coughed. Only then did she remember that the person in front of her was not a real child. She withdrew her hand embarrassedly. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I just wanted to say that we should go. Duge Mabao still looked at her with vigilance. I'll walk on my own. After saying that, he moved to the side and turned to walk forward. Chu Liyue rubbed the space between her eyebrows. TSK. What happened just now seemed to have left a big shadow on Dabeo. She quickly chased after him and followed behind him. Don't worry, don't worry. If there are no special circumstances in the future, I promise that it won't happen again. Duge Mabao did not say anything and silently sped up. There were not many people in the wilderness. Occasionally, they could see some people in a hurry. Most of their auras were very hidden. They seemed to be hiding their realms. After walking for a while, Chu Luiwei asked in a low voice. Although her strength could not be compared to most of the people here, she was extremely sensitive to the aura of the force. With one glance, she could roughly determine the other party's level. However, she had met a few people just now, but she could not find out the other party's background. Of course. Although Dugumabao's face was still cold, he still answered Chu Luiwei's question. There is only one rule in the world of divine ruins: the strong are respected. In order to become stronger, the people here can do anything. If you directly expose your realm, it will definitely attract a lot of attention. Who knows when it will attract a lot of trouble? Unless you have a strong background or have a strong person by your side, you should not easily reveal your level. Especially, Dugumabao stopped in his tracks and looked up at her. You're still so weak. Chu Luiwei choked. She had lived 2 lives. Other than when she had just been reborn and was called a good-for-nothing for a period of time, she was called a genius most of the time. Whether they liked or disliked her, no matter how unwilling they were in this aspect, they would all admit that she was extremely talented. Only Debeo was always full of disdain for her. However, he was right. In this place, she was indeed very weak. She pursed her lips. Her desire to become stronger became even more urgent. Most people use yuan instruments to hide their auras. However, there are good and bad yuan instruments. Some of the top experts are still able to see through the yuan instrument and see through the cultivator's rank. Then mine, don't worry about yours, Dugumabao said lightly. Your yuan instrument that hides your aura is still somewhat useful. Normal people can't see anything. Chu Luiwei responded as if she understood. She touched the silver ring around her neck that was the size of a fingernail. This thing was given to her by Dugumabao in the beginning. At that time, he only said that he had to hide his aura in order to smoothly pass through the border of the world of divine ruins. She did not expect it to be so important. However, she did not know what level this item was. There's a teleportation formation in the city ahead. Let's go there. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1025. The 2 of them walked all the way to the city gate. There were guards in charge of guarding the gate. They held long swords and stood on both sides. They were dressed in the same uniform and had the same tattoo on the left side of their chests. Chu Luiwei glanced at it. It was the one that appeared on the light screen when they came in earlier. It was the totem of Grotto Heaven Cliff. The city gate was obviously much livelier. There was an endless stream of people coming and going. Chu Luiwei led Dugumabao forward. The 2 of them were very eye-catching in the crowd. Chu Luiwei was wearing a mask and looked ordinary. But Dugumabao was the key. He had purple hair and purple eyes and was very cute. Plus, his eyes were unbelievably beautiful and clean. Anyone who saw him would like him. When such a small person walked on the street, 100% of the people turned to look at him. Chu Luiwei gradually felt that it was a little inconvenient to be stared at by more and more people. What she was most worried about was that if these people continued to stare, this little ancestor would lose his temper. She glanced at Dugumabao and saw that his face had turned cold. There was anger in his eyes. Oh my! Whose child is this? Why is he so beautiful? When a big sister came forward to strike up a conversation and reached out to touch Dugumabao's face, his face finally darkened completely. Chu Luiwei saw that the situation was not right. She quickly pulled him behind her and smiled apologetically at the woman. I'm sorry. Our child is more introverted and is afraid of strangers. The woman was very disappointed that she did not manage to touch his chubby face. But since he had said so, she did not continue to disturb him. She could only leave reluctantly. Even after she had left, she kept looking back. Dugumabao said coldly, "If you hadn't stopped me, I wouldn't have let her go so easily." She didn't mean any harm. Chu Luiwei sighed, but could only persuade him. Any divine-level expert who had been reduced to such a state and even had their face touched by a stranger would probably be displeased. Anyway, we'll be leaving soon. Bear with it, okay? Dugumabao's heart felt stifled. She looked more like she was coaxing a child. He turned around and left in annoyance. Since she did not object, it meant that she agreed. Chu Luiwei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. She thought for a moment and said, "Actually, if you don't look good, they wouldn't look at you like that. Get used to it, get used to it." In any case, she had already trained herself to be able to turn a blind eye to the various gazes of others around her. Dugumabao frowned. Of course he wasn't used to it. No one had ever dared to look at him like that before. Unless they were tired of living. But now, he could not say these words to her. After thinking about it, he could only endure it. Under the gazes of many people, the two of them finally arrived at the city gate and prepared to enter. Dugyu. As soon as he finished speaking, the guard's expression changed slightly. The person who was in charge of recording also raised his head and looked over. Dugyu, who came from outside the Divine Ruins world. Chu Luiwen nodded in confusion. However, at this moment, the surrounding voices suddenly fell silent. Almost everyone turned to look at him. All kinds of gazes were focused on Chu Luiwei. Alarm bells rang in her heart, but she still looked calm on the surface. Why, is there a problem? That's not it. The soldier in charge of the inspection smiled ambiguously and looked at Chu Luiwei again. It's just that it's been a long time since someone from the outside came to Heavenly Cave Cliff, so it's a little strange. Although he said it casually, Chu Luiwei felt that things were not that simple. The reactions of the people around were a little strange. Since Lord Lin Xiao allowed you to come in, just let him in. The guard asked for Dugumabao's name and then raised his chin at the person in charge of recording. That person wrote down the names of the two of them. All right, let's go in. Chu Luiwei was suspicious, but she did not dwell on it. She thanked him and led Dugumabao into the city. After they left, the crowd started to clamor again. Hey, so he's from the outside. It's been a long time since an outsider came to Heavenly Cave Cliff, right? He looks young and ordinary. I didn't expect him to be able to come in, to be able to barge in from the outside. Who knows how old he is? He might be over 100 years old. Who cares how old she is? She dares to come here alone. She really has guts. He's just a little lamb, but he doesn't know that wolves are waiting for him. Once he goes in, he'll suffer. How long do you think he can last? Half a month? 10 days? An outsider with a child and a woman at that. If she can survive a day, I'll consider her capable. This time, Heavenly Cave Cliff will have a good show to watch. What are they talking about? After walking for a distance, Chu Luiwei and Dugumabao turned into a remote path and spoke. After she left, she could vaguely hear some people talking about something at the city gate. It was all about her. Dugumabao's expression was cold. It's just some nonsense. Don't pay attention to it. Hearing that, Chu Luiwei did not continue to ask. Dugumabao continued. The teleportation formation that leads to that place is also known as a level 1 teleportation formation. There's only one in the entire Heavenly Cave Cliff, so we can just go there directly. Chu Luiwei was a little curious. How do you know there's only one? Have you been here before? There's only one qualified to build a place like Heavenly Cave Cliff. Dugumabao said calmly. Chu Luiwei. After walking for a while, the two of them returned to a more lively street. Chu Luiwei walked to a shop that sold medicinal herbs and walked towards a shop assistant. Hello, may I know how to get to the level 1 teleportation formation here? Although Heavenly Cave Cliff was a city, it covered a large area. It was not convenient for her and Dugumabao to look around, so asking someone was the most convenient and fastest way. The shop assistant thought that Chu Luiwei was there to buy medicinal herbs, but when he heard that, his face immediately drooped and his eyelids were half opened. You want to go there? Yes. Please show me the way. Chu Luiwei did not seem to care about his cold attitude. She still had a smile on her face. I'm advising you not to go. Chu Luiwei was stunned. Why is that? Hey, why else? Look over there. As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed in a certain direction. Chu Luiwei looked over and indeed saw a faint light shining over there. Of course it's because the teleportation formation is broken. The shop assistant crossed his arms. Even the Cliff Master and the others can't use it now, let alone you? If there's nothing else, hurry up and leave. Don't delay our business here. Chu Luiwei frowned slightly. It was not easy to come in, but the teleportation formation was broken? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1026. Is there really no other way? In a tea house, Chu Luiwei and Dugu Mabao sat opposite each other. Chu Luiwei looked in the direction of the teleportation formation again and asked, unwilling to give up. Dugu Mabao's answer was very straightforward. The power of space in the divine ruins is mixed, and the sects are very far away from each other. If ordinary people want to travel here, they have to rely on teleportation formations. Even with a divine beast leading the way, it's very easy to get lost. But we still have Snowy. It won't get the wrong place, but the journey is long and we'll spend a lot of time on the way. Most importantly, it's easy to attract trouble. In the wilderness, killing intent is everywhere. If we're not careful, Chu Luiwei understood without saying anything else. She rubbed her eyebrows. In other words, we can only rely on the teleportation formation. But now, the teleportation formation at Grotto Heaven Cliff is broken. What should we do? Either this teleportation formation is repaired quickly, or we can change to another teleportation formation. If that Grade 1 teleportation formation couldn't be used, then they could use other Grade 2 or Grade 3 teleportation formations to go somewhere else. It couldn't be that every Grade 1 teleportation formation was broken, right? It's not impossible, but it'll be more troublesome. Chu Luiwei was helpless. But now, this is the only way. Are we going to wait here for them to fix the Grade 1 teleportation formation? Who knew how long they would have to wait? Dugu Mabao thought for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. Chu Luiwei asked around and found out that there were 2 Grade 2 teleportation formations here, and they led to 2 different places. After discussing, the 2 of them walked out of the tea house. I'll choose one randomly. No matter which one it is, as long as we can get to the place. Before Chu Luiwei could finish her sentence, she suddenly felt a cold air coming toward her. She stopped in her tracks and looked up abruptly. Who is it? This was a bluestone path. There was no one in front or behind, and it was very quiet. However, Chu Luiwei was still very vigilant, and he began to secretly circulate the force in his body. As expected of someone who could barge in from the outside. You're quite alert. A low and deep voice sounded, carrying a trace of malice. Then, the void in front of Chu Luiwei suddenly rippled. A huge hand tore the void apart with incomparable force. A man walked out from within. He looked to be in his 30s. He was tall and had a square face. There was an inch-long scar on his left cheek that looked like a centipede, giving him a ferocious aura. Chu Luiwei's heart suddenly jumped. This person's strength was definitely far above hers. The man's eyes swept over Chu Luiwei. When he saw the universe ring on her hand, his eyes lit up. Oh, you really do have some good treasures on you. The level of this interspatial ring was not low. There must be a lot of good stuff inside. The ones he had encountered before were all inferior to this one. He stretched out his hand and said in a commanding tone, "Don't worry. As long as you hand over the interspatial ring on your hand, I promise I won't kill you." Chu Luiwei's eyes were slightly cold. You want my interspatial ring? The man chuckled and stroked the stubble on his chin. If you want to give me something else, it's not impossible. Although her face is ordinary, her body is top-notch. Chu Luiwei was not angry. Instead, she smiled and asked softly, "What if I say no?" Digression, my heart is so tired. In order to let the bookstore synchronize the chapters of the surrounding activities, I specially asked the editor to open the second volume. However, the second volume was a free volume. The chapters would be posted here by default. So, I didn't read it clearly just now and accidentally posted it as a free chapter. Thank you for Yuyu and Lizi's reminder. I will try to pay more attention in the future. The insomnia headache continued at 6:00 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1027. What kind of place do you think this is? Do you think you can say, no? The man obviously didn't take Chu Liyue's words to heart. He smiled sinisterly, and his eyes were full of contempt and provocation. You are an outsider. This is your first time in the world of divine ruins. There are some rules that you don't understand. Lui will teach you. Anyone who came here would more or less have to do something. Otherwise, this cave heaven cliff is extremely dangerous. It's not certain if you can get out. As he spoke, he sneered coldly and his gaze swept over Dugumabao. It would be a pity if something happened to such a beautiful and cute child. Don't you think so? Chu Liyue narrowed her eyes. Are you threatening me? How can it be a threat? I'm just telling the truth. As Lu Yi spoke, the corners of his mouth twitched, revealing an oppressive smile. I don't want to waste time. You'd better hand over the interspatial ring to me. As soon as his voice fell, the aura on his body suddenly burst out. Chu Liyue's pupils shrank. A demigod expert. At this level, she couldn't beat him no matter what. Thinking about it carefully, those who could break into the world of divine ruins from the outside were all experts who had stepped into the realm of gods. Among them, the weakest was a demigod. If Lu Yi wasn't strong enough, he wouldn't dare to do this. Brother, let's talk about it. Chu Liyue's sharp look quickly disappeared and replaced it with a kind smile. Lu Yi sneered. You know what's good for you. Give it to me. Chu Liyue touched the interspatial ring as if she was really going to take it off. At the same time, a trace of embarrassment appeared on her face. Actually, this ring is very important to me, so why are you dawdling? If you can't take it off, I'll take it myself. As Lu Yi spoke, he strode toward Chu Liyue. So, don't even think about it. A cold light flashed in Chu Liyue's eyes. At the same time, the peach blossom on the inner side of her wrist suddenly bloomed. Lu Yi thought to himself, not good. He immediately summoned a long saber and slashed forward. How dare you! The two figures instantly disappeared from where they stood. Clang. The long saber landed heavily on the ground, emitting a crisp sound. Lu Yi quickly looked around, but there was no one. There wasn't even the slightest bit of spatial fluctuation. Cunning! Lu Yi was enraged. A moment of carelessness had actually allowed the other party to escape. But at the same time, doubt arose in his heart. Only those who had completely stepped into the god realm could teleport. A demigod like him could only watch helplessly. However, that woman didn't seem to have used her own power to teleport. Could he have used some Yuan instrument? As he thought of this, his heart trembled. An origin tool that could teleport was extremely rare. In the entire Paradise Cliff, there were probably less than 3 people that possessed such a treasure. If he could snatch it, however, from the looks of it, that woman really did have some treasures. Lu Yi thought for a moment, and a trace of hesitation flashed in his heart. To be able to have so many good things, that woman's identity should not be ordinary. However, on second thought, Lu Yi dispelled the idea. She was just an outsider. What kind of good background could she have? She must have gotten it by luck, and he didn't know how she got it. That woman could teleport. It would be difficult for him to quickly catch her with his own strength. However, he had many spies in Paradise Cliff. As long as he gave the order, he would not have to worry about not being able to find her. A trace of gloominess flashed in his eyes, and he quickly left. Back at the city gate, those people were talking behind his back. This should be what they were talking about, right? After escaping for some distance, Chu Liyue found a secluded corner. After confirming that the person had escaped, he breathed a sigh of relief. Dugumabao glanced at the hand that was still unconsciously held by her. He wanted to pull it away, but when he remembered how she had grabbed his hand without hesitation when she escaped, he hesitated again. After hesitating for a long time, he finally decided to turn his face away and pretend that he did not see it. Debeo, what do you think? Debeo? Chu Liyue shouted twice before Dugumabao's attention was pulled back. Dugumabao responded indifferently. His expression seemed to be a little impatient, but he did not stop explaining. The people of the Divine Ruins world are naturally hostile and disdainful of outsiders. They will usually find ways to bully them. Moreover, This place is full of crooks and dragons. Right now, in their eyes, you are just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. It's just that those people will never think that Chu Luiwei is a piece of iron. I see. Chu Luiwei nodded. Only then did she realize that she was still holding Dugu Mabao's hand. She quickly let go and giggled. It was a special situation just now. Dabeo, you don't mind, right? Dugu Mabao's hand was suddenly let go. He immediately felt empty, as if something was missing. Hearing Chu Luiwei's question, he frowned and replied with a faint Chu Luiwei did not notice his subtle mood. She crossed her arms, leaned against the wall, and thought to herself. Then we are in a bit of trouble now. The other party dared to make a move in broad daylight. He must have a certain background here. What if he was determined to deal with her? She was not confident that she could win. That Lu Yi has good eyesight. With just a glance, he was sure that there was a treasure in it. Chu Luiwei slowly turned the interspatial ring on her hand. When Rong Xiu sent Yan Qin to deliver this thing, she immediately saw that the interspatial ring was of a very high level. She just did not expect that it would cause her such trouble now. Dugu Mabao could not help but snort with undisguised contempt and disdain. If he really has good eyesight, he won't. He won't come up to snatch the interspatial ring. Unfortunately, he has bad eyesight. He doesn't even know who he has offended. What? Chu Luiwei asked curiously. Nothing. Dugu Mabao glanced at the sky. Let's go to the second-level transmission array first. There were 2 second-level transmission arrays in Dongtian Cliff City, located in the north and south of the city. The 2 went directly to the south of the city. From afar, the 2 of them saw the huge teleportation array. There was a circle of guards around the transmission array. Their clothes were also tattooed with the totem of the Lin family of Dongtian Cliff. Chu Luiwei was secretly shocked. Although it was only a second-level transmission array, its size and scale were more powerful than the largest transmission array in the Tianling dynasty. In other words, there was no room for comparison between the 2. It was already afternoon, but there were still people coming and going around the transmission array. Everyone would first go to the bottom left when they boarded the transmission array. It seemed that there was a charge for it. Chu Luiwei walked over with Dugu Mabao and said politely, "Hello. We want to board the transmission array and go to the nearest city from here." The man looked up at her. When he saw Dugu Mabao next to her, he narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "I won't take your order. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network." Chapter 1028. Chu Luiwei looked at the people in front of him who had already paid and boarded the teleportation formation. If they can, why can't I? The guard snorted and revealed a sarcastic smile. You have to ask yourselves this. You offended someone you shouldn't have, and you still ask why? Chu Luiwei frowned and suddenly understood. It seemed that it was Lu Yi's fault. Chu Luiwei had long expected that he wouldn't let it go, but he didn't expect his power and means to be so powerful that he could directly prohibit them from boarding the teleportation formation in such a short time. Logically speaking, this teleportation formation should belong to the Lin family. Who was that Lu Yi to have such power? Chu Luiwei calmed down. I'll pay twice the price. The guard didn't even raise his head. Don't think about it. Anyway, we won't let you go up. You give up. Next. 5 times. Chu Luiwei took a step forward. If 5 times is not enough, I'll pay 10 times. The surrounding people quieted down and looked over with different expressions. What a big tone. She actually wants to pay 10 times? Does she know how much the last teleportation formation cost? How dare she boast like this? I think they look a little familiar. Hey, they seem to be the 2 outsiders who entered the city today. That child has purple hair and purple eyes. Isn't that her? Sit. I heard about it too. It's them. It seems that they really offended someone. Now, it's difficult for them to move at Cave Heaven Cliff. The surrounding people were discussing. Chu Luiwei's heart sank slightly. Sure enough, the guard opposite him shrugged without a smile. I said, no matter how much money you pay, it's useless. If you have the time, you'd better apologize to them as soon as possible so that it won't be too ugly in the end. With that, he waved at the people behind him. What are you waiting for? Don't you want to board the teleportation formation? Hurry up. The people behind Chu Liwei hurriedly stepped forward and pushed her away. Coming. Chu Liwei took 2 steps back and subconsciously pulled Duga Mabao behind him to protect him. She stood there for a while, then turned and left. Let's go take a look at the other teleportation array. The result was as expected. The other teleportation portal also firmly rejected Chu Liwei. Even the remaining 3 level 3 teleportation arrays were the same. In other words, Chu Liwei and Duga Mabao no longer had the chance to leave this place and head to other places. In the blink of an eye, it was already night time. Chu Liwei found an inn to rest, but he was not in the mood to sleep. It seems that this Lu Yi's identity is indeed not ordinary. He was even more scheming than she had expected. At this level, he could already be considered a local tyrant. He must be related to the Lin family. Duga Mabao sat on the chair and said calmly, "The various sects and clans are in charge of the teleportation formations in their respective territories. On the one hand, building such a teleportation formation requires several top experts to work together. On the other hand, the cost of maintenance is extremely high. That's why they send people to guard the teleportation formation and charge people to come and go to maintain a profit. Under normal circumstances, they won't go against money. Therefore, the person who can mobilize these guards and make them firmly refuse to let us enter the teleportation formation is definitely not an ordinary person." Chu Liwei fell silent. Knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Chu Liwei went to open the door, and the waiter handed her a letter. "Dear guest, your letter?" Who could she receive a letter from in this place? Chu Liwei had already guessed something in her heart. She directly took the letter and opened it. She quickly skimmed through it. If you've thought it through, go to the Lu residence and kowtow in person and admit your mistake. The handwriting was sloppy and the tone was arrogant. There was no signature, but it was not difficult to guess that this was Lu Yi's letter. Chu Liwei's eyes were cold as she called out to the waiter who was about to leave. "Stop." The waiter turned around. "Dear guest, do you have any other orders?" Chu Liwei waved the letter in her hand. "Who is this Lu Yi?" A trace of nervousness flashed across the waiter's face. Chu Liwei threw a bag over. "If you can tell me clearly, there is more." Although the waiter was afraid, he couldn't help but secretly think twice, and the look in his eyes wavered. This person is actually quite famous in Cave Heaven Cliff, and it's all because of his sister. Chu Liwei threw another bag over. "Continue." Money makes the world go round. After Chu Liwei generously offered, she got a lot of information from the waiter. It turned out that Lu Yi's sister, Lu Yu, was the current matriarch of the Lin family. Lu Yu originally came from an ordinary family, but she relied on the Lin family and soared. Even her entire Lu family was basking in the glory. Lu Yi was her only brother, and he had always been doted on. That was how he became arrogant, domineering, and presumptuous. Originally, his cultivation talent was not particularly outstanding. It was only thanks to Lu Yi's efforts that he was finally able to reach the demigod realm by throwing countless good things at him. But this Lu Yi liked to stir up trouble. With this backing, he naturally didn't take others seriously. Usually, he took pleasure in robbing others of their treasures. Many people in Cave Heaven Cliff had been taken advantage of by him, but they didn't dare to say anything. After all, the entire Cave Heaven Cliff belonged to the Lin family. Who dared to fight with them? As for the itinerant cultivators like Chu Liwei, who came from outside, he bullied them even more. This time, he was annoyed by Chu Liwei, so he was ruthless and directly blocked all the teleportation formations. It was obvious that he wanted to force Chu Liwei to bow down. He had forced her into a corner. Before the waiter left, he didn't forget to persuade Chu Liwei to beg for mercy as soon as possible. Otherwise, her days in Cave Heaven Cliff would become more and more difficult. Chu Liwei didn't comment. When there was no one else in the room, she directly burned the letter. He wants me to kowtow and apologize? He thinks he's a big shot. Chu Liwei sneered. Back at ancient Phoenix Mountain, when she met the remnant consciousness of the northern underworld Taizu, she didn't back down. Let alone a mere good-for-nothing rich kid who couldn't be helped. Dugamabao looked up slightly, and a faint glow flickered in his beautiful purple eyes. Do you want me to do it? Chu Luiwei shook her head. No need. I have my own way to deal with him. She knew Dugamabao had his concerns. Although she didn't know why, she didn't want to trouble him unless it was a critical moment. What way? Dugamabao frowned slightly. You won't be a match for him if you rely on yourself. Chu Luiwei curled her lips into a smile. He has a backer. Why don't we find a more powerful backer? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1029. The next morning, Chu Luiwei brought Dugamabao to the entrance of the Lin clan. The two of them standing in front of the entrance was very eye-catching. Chu Luiwei stepped forward and bowed politely. Sirs, please inform the Lin clan's patriarch that my daughter, Duguyu, would like to see him. The Lin clan's patriarch was naturally the cliff master of Cave Heaven Cliff, Lin Tianfeng. The two guards looked at each other. One of them asked, Do you have an appointment? Chu Luiwei shook her head. No. Do you have an invitation? Do you have a letter of recommendation? The guard's expression turned ugly. She had nothing, yet she wanted to see him. How bold. He waved his hand impatiently. I won't see anyone who doesn't have that. Chu Luiwei smiled. I know it's rude for me to visit you so suddenly, but I do have an important matter to attend to. Please help me, sirs. It's not a matter of whether we help or not. There are many people who want to see the patriarch. If we inform him of any random person's visit, what will happen? Lin Tianfeng is the most important person in Cave Heaven Cliff. How can you meet him just because you want to? With that, the guard urged her to leave. Chu Luiwei didn't take it to heart and continued. Sirs, you only need to tell him that the Lin clan's patriarch will be willing to see me. The guard seemed to have heard a joke. Oh, then tell me, what is it? Chu Luiwei put her hands behind her back and said calmly, I can cure fourth young Master Lin's chronic illness. She really said that? Lin Tianfeng was lying on a small bed. When he heard this, he pushed away Luiwei's hand that was massaging his temples and stood up abruptly. He looked excited. Luiwei's brows furrowed, but she quickly smoothed them out. Although she was already in her 30s, she still looked like a girl in her early 20s because of her good maintenance. Coupled with the mature charm in her eyes, she was indeed very beautiful. However, at this moment, Lin Tianfeng only had the guard's words in his mind. She really has a way to cure Zhifei's illness? The guard hurriedly said. Yes, that's what she said. Hurry up, Lin Tianfeng said anxiously. For so many years, his youngest son's health had always been a thorn in his heart. She had tried countless methods to seek medical treatment, but there was no obvious improvement. Naturally, he couldn't contain his excitement. Master, don't be anxious. Since it was related to Zhifei, everything had to be done with extra caution. Luiwei stood up, leisurely walked to his side, and gently advised him. At the very least, shouldn't you at least ask what rank the heavenly doctor is? Right. Look at me, I even forgot about this. Lin Tianfeng clapped his hands and asked. What grade is she? She wasn't wearing a celestial physician's robe, so I'm not too sure. But when I heard that she could cure fourth young master, I hurried over. The guard's back was drenched in cold sweat. He had indeed neglected this point, but he could only brace himself and say it. As long as he said it was for the sake of fourth young master, the head of the house wouldn't be so calculative. As expected, Lin Tianfeng frowned when he heard this, but he didn't get angry. Luiwei scolded him from the side. What are you doing? You didn't even gather such crucial information, and you dare to report it? The guard hurriedly knelt down and admitted his mistake. Luiwei stretched out her hand and grabbed Lin Tianfeng's arm. A trace of worry flashed across her face. Master, I know you're doing this for Zhifei's sake, but we've met a lot of celestial physicians over the years. If we let her in and treat Zhifei, I'm afraid it's not good. Besides, Zhifei has always been afraid of strangers. Lin Tianfeng felt a headache coming on. The guard asked tentatively. Then, should I let her go? Lin Tianfeng gritted his teeth. Let her in first. I'll see her in person. No matter what, he had to give it a try. Lu Yuer's face stiffened for a moment, then she quickly lowered her eyes to hide the jealousy in her eyes. He wouldn't even let go of a glimmer of hope. He really cared about Lin Qifei the most. Chu Luiyue led Dugu Mabao into the Lin mansion under the guard's lead. As the noblest place in Cave Heaven Cliff, the Lin mansion occupied a vast area and was exquisite and luxurious. Whether it was the pavilions, terraces, or trees, they all exuded a noble aura. In addition, there were many Xian formations set up in the courtyard. Chu Luiyue walked along. Although she didn't meet many people, there were many hidden auras. She calmly followed the guard all the way forward and quietly memorized everything she saw in her mind. When she reached the front hall, Lin Tianfeng was already waiting there. Chu Luiyue recognized him at a glance. Although he was middle-aged, Lin Tianfeng was graceful and elegant, and it wasn't difficult to see his handsome appearance when he was young. Lin Qifei indeed resembled him. Chu Luiyue walked over and bowed. Dugu greets clan head Lin. Lin Tianfeng looked at her in surprise. He only heard the guard say that it was a woman, but he didn't know that she was so young. At this age, could there really be a way to cure Jifei's illness? Thinking of this, he directly asked, "May I know what grade Miss Dugu is now?" Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. 7th grade. Digression, everything is not going well today, I'm so angry. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1030. As soon as she finished speaking, the hall fell silent. Lin Tianfeng's face became a little stiff. 7th grade. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. She had no problem refining a 7th grade pill now. As for higher grades, she hadn't tried it yet, so it was better not to say for the time being. A mere 7th grade, and you dare to boast that you can cure my son's illness? Lin Tianfeng was so angry that he laughed. He was so excited before, thinking that he had finally met an expert. Who knew? It was just a 7th grade celestial physician. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. A 7th grade celestial physician was definitely an existence that everyone admired in the Tianling dynasty. But here, she was obviously not taken seriously at all. Guards! Kick her out right now. Lin Tianfeng was full of anger. With a flick of his sleeve, he sent someone to do it. Wait! Chu Luiyue said calmly. Her voice was very soft, but it carried a kind of pressure and power that couldn't be ignored, making the guards who were about to step forward subconsciously stop in their tracks. Master Lin, just because I'm a 7th grade celestial physician, you won't even give me a chance to try. Are you going to kick me out? A 7th grade celestial physician. You don't even have the qualifications to be the Lin family's celestial physician elder. You want me to give you a chance to try? Lin Tianfeng's face was full of anger, and he couldn't help but snort coldly. In your dreams. The lowest level celestial physician in the Lin family was an 8th grade mid-grade. The strongest one could even refine a 9th grade peak pill. And even they couldn't do anything about Jifei's illness. Why would they care about such a 7th grade celestial physician? Lin Tianfeng even felt that the woman in front of him was here to make a fool of him. He glanced at Dugu Mabao from the corner of his eye. If it weren't for the fact that she had a child, he would have already attacked her. Go. If you continue to pester me, don't blame me for being impolite. Chu Luiyue's lips curved up slightly. Patriarch Lin, 4th young Master Lin, was born with a weak constitution and had this illness since birth. But it should have only gotten worse in recent years, right? Lin Tianfeng had already planned to turn around and leave, but when he heard this, his footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at Chu Luiyue in surprise. Chu Luiyue continued. If I'm not wrong, 4th young Master Lin started coughing blood about a year ago. Lin Tianfeng's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were fixed on Chu Luiyue as he ordered the guards around him. All of you go down first. Without my permission, no one is allowed to come in. The guards looked at each other in dismay, but they hurriedly responded respectfully. With that said, the crowd quickly retreated. Soon, only Chu Luiyue, Dugu Mabao, and Lin Tianfeng were left in the hall. How did you know? Lin Tianfeng asked with a tense expression. Lin Qifei had been careful to keep the matter of vomiting blood a secret. Almost no one in the residence knew about it. Even he only found out about it by chance half a year ago. This Duguyu was very unfamiliar and looked very ordinary. Logically speaking, it was impossible for her to know about this. Naturally, I could tell. Chu Luiyue smiled. There's something that I forgot to tell you. I'm not from Heavenly Cave Cliff, but from outside the world of God. A few days ago, when I was passing by the gate of the world of God, I happened to meet fourth young Master Lin and had a few words with him. At that time, he kept coughing so I could tell. Lin Tianfeng was stunned and took a while to react. You're an outsider? You met Ji Fei before? You could deduce so much just by listening to his coughing? Of course not. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly. At that time, I also took a few more glances at fourth young Master Lin's face. Combining the two, I was able to guess. Lin Tianfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. This woman, did he really have such great ability? One had to know that even the most powerful celestial physician in Heavenly Cave Cliff could not tell anything was wrong with him before personally taking his pulse. Yet, she was able to guess so much just from this brief meeting. Lin Tianfeng did not dare to believe it. But since this woman said that she was an outsider, there was no point in lying. Could it be true? Lin Tianfeng spoke hesitantly, but did not know what to say. On one hand, this woman's level was not high, and she was a stranger from outside the world of God. Her background was unknown. On the other hand, she did seem to have some ability. Are you really confident? Lin Tianfeng was a little shaken. Chu Luiyue smiled. Patriarch Lin, this is Heavenly Cave Cliff, the Lin family's territory. No matter how stupid I am, I will not take the initiative to cause trouble in the Lin family. What do you think? When she said that, Lin Tianfeng suddenly felt that it made some sense. She was an outsider with a child. Logically speaking, she did not have any background here. Since she dared to come directly, she most likely had a plan. Lin Tianfeng hesitated for a while before finally gritting his teeth. If that's the case, I'll give you a chance first. You, Master, you can't. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted. Chu Luiyue looked back. A woman in a luxurious dress was leisurely walking over. She looked very young and beautiful. Why are you here? Lin Tianfeng was a little surprised. Chu Luiyue lowered his eyes. So this person was Lu Yuke. She should be in her 30s, but he really could not tell at all. No wonder she could climb up to Lin Tianfeng with an ordinary background. Lu Yue went straight to Lin Tianfeng's side. She frowned and asked in a soft voice, Master, I saw that you chased the guards out just now and was worried that something might have happened, so I rushed in. You won't blame me, right? Lin Tianfeng patted her hand. Why would I blame you for such a small matter? Don't think too much. It's just that I'm discussing something with this Miss Dugu. Lu Yuer's gaze turned, as if she had just seen Chu Luiyue. When she saw the woman's ordinary face and the child standing next to her, she secretly sighed in relief. These days, she had seen countless little bitches who wanted to use the opportunity to climb up the ranks. They really used all kinds of methods. If she had not strictly guarded the position for so many years, how could she have gotten the position of the matriarch? This must be Miss Duguyu. She slowly smiled, her eyes beautiful, but a faint trace of doubt appeared in her heart. This woman seemed to be here to treat Lin Qifei? But looking at her, she didn't seem to be a powerful person. Master, look at Miss Dugu. She's young and has a child. Don't scare her, she said as if she was joking. Lin Tianfeng shook his head. That won't happen. I'm going to ask her to check Qifei's pulse and see what's going on. What? Lu Yu was shocked and blurted out. How can that be? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1031. Her voice was particularly abrupt in the quiet hall. Lin Tianfeng frowned. What, you don't think it's a good idea? Lu Yue knew that she had lost her composure and hurriedly smiled to cover it up. No, master, please don't misunderstand. I just felt a little surprised. This woman didn't seem to be anything special. Why would he agree to let her treat Lin Qifei? To be able to make master agree, this Miss Dugu must be very capable. As she spoke, she glanced at Chu Luiyue. Miss Dugu's celestial physician rank must be very high, right? Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. Madam Lin, you flatter me. I'm just a 7th grade celestial physician now. Lu Yuer's eyes widened slightly, as if she couldn't believe it. She subconsciously looked at Lin Tianfeng. Lin Tianfeng said, although Miss Dugu is only a 7th grade celestial physician, she's quite capable. Let her give it a try, she might be able to do it. Lu Yuer almost thought that Lin Tianfeng was joking. Are you kidding me? A 7th grade celestial physician is qualified to treat Lin Qifei now? She still remembered clearly how Lin Tianfeng had given the family's 8th grade and even 9th grade celestial physician attitude because he couldn't treat Lin Qifei. What was going on now? Master, I know you're worried about Lin Qifei's health, but we can't just turn to any doctor in a desperate situation. Knowing that Chu Luiyue's rank was ordinary, Lu Yuer didn't take her seriously anymore. She directly pulled Lin Tianfeng over and said worriedly, This woman's background is unknown. Are you really at ease to let her treat Jifei? You know that Jifei hates strangers the most. If his condition is aggravated, I'm here, what's there to worry about? Lin Tianfeng disapproved of Lu Yuer's worries. A young woman with a child and an outsider to boot, what could she do? How could he be afraid in the Lin mansion? But, what's more, she has met Jifei before, so she's not a stranger. This was another important reason why Lin Tianfeng agreed to let her give it a try. Lin Qifei was introverted and reclusive. Even the people of the Lin mansion might not be able to talk to him. Since he was willing to talk to this woman, then there was no harm in letting her try. Lu Yuer was secretly shocked. When did this happen? Why didn't she know about it at all? She still wanted to say something, but seeing that Lin Tianfeng had already made up his mind, she tactfully stopped objecting. I'll listen to Master. As long as Jifei can recover, nothing else matters. There was something fishy about this matter. Perhaps in the end, it would all be for naught. Thinking of this, Lu Yuer relaxed a little. Lin Tianfeng looked at Chu Luiyue. Come with me. As the 4th young master of the Lin mansion, Lin Qifei was of noble status, but he lived in a remote courtyard in the southwest corner of the Lin mansion. Chu Luiyue followed Lin Tianfeng for a long time before finally arriving. Standing outside the courtyard, through the moon gate, Chu Luiyue saw the green bamboo that occupied half of the courtyard. Seeing Lin Tianfeng arrive, the servant hurriedly came up to greet him. Master! Lin Tianfeng waved his hand and looked inside. Where's Jifei? Master, the 4th young master has been resting in his room for the past 2 days. He's reading right now. Lin Tianfeng nodded. Go and report, just say. I've invited a celestial physician to take a look at him. Over the years, the same situation had happened countless times. The servant who served here had long been used to it. He responded and prepared to go back to report. As he left, he quickly glanced at Chu Luiyue standing behind him. He was secretly puzzled. This woman looked unfamiliar. Could the celestial physician that the master had invited be her? But it wasn't up to him to ask, so he quickly left. Not long after, the servant returned. Master, the 4th young master has invited you and the celestial physician in. Lin Tianfeng didn't immediately move. Instead, he looked at Lu Yuer beside him. Yuer, then, you should go back first. Lu Yuer seemed to be used to this and nodded slightly. Chu Luiyue watched from the side and finally figured out what was going on. The Lin family was really interesting. As the master of the house, Lin Tianfeng had to announce in advance if he wanted to enter his son's courtyard. And this mistress of the Lin family was even more disliked. She wasn't even allowed to enter the courtyard. Lin Tianfeng nodded comfortingly. You've been wholeheartedly serving Jifei all these years. He just doesn't understand now. Sooner or later, he'll accept you. Lu Yuer's face carried a bit of forbearance and grievance, but she still smiled gently. Master is right. Hurry and bring Miss Dugu in. Yuer will take her leave. After he finished speaking, he bowed and left. Lin Tianfeng sighed, seeming a little apologetic, and then stepped in. Let's go. Chu Luiyue pulled Dugu Mabao and followed closely behind. When they arrived at the room, Lin Qifei was reading. Hearing the noise, he stood up. "Father, you and I don't need to bow in private. Sit down." Lin Tianfeng quickly walked over. Lin Qifei nodded slightly, then looked at Chu Luiwei behind him. He was slightly startled. "It's you?" Although this face was very ordinary, it had a pair of black jade-like eyes. Coupled with the purple-haired and purple-eyed child beside him, it was hard for him not to remember. Chu Luiwei smiled and bowed. "Duguyu greets fourth young master." Seeing that the two of them knew each other, Lin Tianfeng felt a little relieved. Lin Qifei suddenly realized something. "You are the celestial physician that father invited?" Chu Luiwei blinked. "Actually, I came to visit of my own accord. Thanks to fourth young master's help last time, I haven't had a chance to thank you properly. So this time, I came specially to help fourth young master." Lin Qifei was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He glanced at Lin Tianfeng. This Duguyu was an outsider. Father actually agreed to let her treat him. Could she be a powerful person? "Don't waste your time." Lin Qifei's thin lips curved into a faint smile, but his light-colored eyes were full of alienation and coldness. "I know my own body's condition. I've already tried so many methods, but none of them worked." He didn't think that the woman in front of him could do anything. Chu Luiwei wasn't discouraged. "Fourth young master, you won't know until you try, right?" Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but persuade him in a low voice. "Yes. Jifei, father knows that you don't want to cause trouble. If it was an ordinary celestial physician, father wouldn't have let her come. This woman does have some skills. Let her take your pulse first, and we'll talk about the rest later. How about it?" Hearing Lin Tianfeng's words, Lin Qifei couldn't refuse. He paused for a moment, then finally nodded. "All right." Chu Luiwei stepped forward. Lin Tianfeng first handed over a handkerchief and placed it on Lin Qifei's wrist. Chu Luiwei didn't mind, and gently placed his white and slender fingers on it. "Digression, I'm so tired. I accidentally gave out the second chapter for free again. Everyone clear the cache and take a look." Chapter 1032. The room was completely silent. Chu Luiwei held his breath and channeled a strand of force into Lin Qifei's body. This strand of force was extremely thin and pure, and its perception was extremely sharp. Lin Qifei's Yuan Meridian was also a Daijing Yuan Meridian, and it was even a high-grade one. He could definitely be considered a genius among geniuses. However, for some reason, the flow of force in his body was not smooth, as if it was blocked by something. Chu Luiwei continued to investigate, and only then did he realize that there seemed to be something scattered around his Yuan Meridian like balls. The existence of these things was like huge rocks in a stream, blocking the flow of water. Although it did not completely block the flow of force, it was still a great resistance. It was also because of this that Lin Qifei's aura was always weak, even though he was very strong. These strange things were also deposited in his 5 viscera, especially his lungs. This was also the main reason he was coughing up blood. Chu Luiwei thoroughly checked the condition of his body, and only then did he withdraw the force and release his hand. "How is it?" Lin Tianfeng, who had been waiting nervously at the side, quickly asked. Chu Luiwei frowned slightly. "The situation is worse than I expected." Lin Tianfeng's expression froze. What does this mean?" Chu Luiwei glanced at Lin Qifei. "What I mean is, fourth young master, to be able to hold on until now is really amazing." She guessed that Lin Qifei's body had been ill for a long time, and it would be more troublesome to treat. However, she did not expect that at this stage he would still look so calm and normal. She could only say that he was too good at pretending. She did not know if it was because he did not want others to see his real condition, or really? Lin Tianfeng looked at Lin Qifei. "Jifei, is what she said true?" Lin Qifei smiled, his expression calm. "Miss Dugu is exaggerating, I'm fine. If you don't treat the condition of your body in time, you have at most 3 years left." Chu Luiwei interrupted him. "Fourth young master, as you said, you should be aware of your own body's condition, right?" Lin Tianfeng suddenly stood up. Whoosh, bang. His movements were so violent that he knocked the chair over and landed heavily on the ground. How is this possible? 3 years. Months, he said fiercely. Back then, the elders clearly said that as long as I take care of it, there wouldn't be any major problems. Chu Liwei was calm. Master Lin, fourth young master, knows best whether it's true or not, right? Lin Jifei pursed his lips and didn't speak. Fourth young master, Lin Tianfeng's of Lin based on his of his, of course, if he was injured. Of course it would be difficult. His body had long since become an empty shell. Hearing this, Lin Jifei's expression finally changed. He stared at Chu Liwei, his face extremely pale. Seeing his expression, how could Lin Tianfeng not understand? His voice choked, his heart in pain. After taking a few deep breaths, he looked at Chu Liwei weakly. All right, I only have one question for you. Are you still confident in treating Jifei's illness? None of the elders were able to detect Jifei's condition, only Duguyu was able to do so. Other than her, there was no one else who could solve this problem. Master Lin, please calm down. When I came, I said that I would cure fourth young master's illness. Of course, it's the same now. It's just a little troublesome. Lin Tianfeng looked as if he had seen the light. It's okay if it's troublesome. As long as you have a way. Everything else is not a problem. Chu Liwei frowned slightly, as if she was worried about something. The light in Lin Jifei's eyes gradually dimmed when he heard her say that she had a way. He laughed bitterly and said lightly, "It's okay. It's already very impressive that you can see my condition. Regardless of whether it can be cured in the end, I am very grateful to you. My body has been weak since I was born. After living for so many years, it's already quite good." Lin Tianfeng's heart felt stifled. He wanted to comfort him, but when he saw Lin Jifei's expression that seemed to have seen through life and death, his throat tightened and his nose twitched. He could not say anything. There's something that I need to trouble Miss Dugu with. Not many people know about my condition. I hope that Miss Dugu can keep it a secret in the future. No, I'm not worried about this. Chu Liwei shook her head carelessly. I'm thinking about other problems. Lin Tianfeng and Lin Jifei were both stunned. Miss Dugu, if you have any difficulties, just tell me. As long as I can help, I will do my best. As long as she could cure Jifei, nothing else mattered. Chu Liwei sighed softly. Please don't misunderstand. I'm worried because fourth young master's body needs too much time to recuperate. I'm just passing by Heavenly Cave Cliff this time, so I don't have much time to stay here. Lin Tianfeng and Lin Jifei were stunned. They never thought that Chu Liwei was thinking about this. If Miss Dugu is not in a hurry, how about you stay here for a while? Lin Tianfeng asked tentatively. If there's anything we can do, just tell us. Chu Liwei shook her head and politely refused. I'm really sorry. This matter is very important to me, so I'm afraid I can't stay here for too long, Master. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. Lin Tianfeng's expression turned solemn as he walked out. What's wrong? Because he was disturbed, his expression was not very good. The guard who came to report shrank and quickly knelt down. At the same time, he handed over the things in his hands with both hands. Master, there's a letter saying that the Holy Sun's birthday is coming soon. They're asking if we're going to give up on the consort selection because we haven't gone there yet. Chu Liwei, who was sitting in the room, suddenly paused. She slowly raised her head and looked outside the door. Holy Sun? Birthday? Consort selection? Digression. 6 p.m. Yesterday's update did not refresh. Everyone, clear the cache and take a look. There are already a few long comments. Deliberating. There are only a few days left. Chapter 1033. Lin Tianfeng sighed. Sigh, of course we have to go. It's just that Heavenly Cave Cliff only has one level 1 teleportation formation, and it broke down at this critical juncture. That's why we're delayed. If we want to fix it, we'll need 2 more days. You may leave first. I'll personally write a letter to explain the reason behind this. Yes. Hearing this, the guard hurriedly left. Lin Tianfeng stood in the courtyard for a while before turning to return to the house. his brows were tightly knitted. He was clearly worried about this series of events. On the one hand, the Holy Sun's birthday banquet was getting closer and closer. If they delayed any longer, it would not be good. Heavenly Cave Cliff status was not high to begin with. If they made another mistake at this critical juncture, it would be one disaster after another. On the other hand, he had just learned about Lin Qifei's physical condition, which made him even more upset. He walked in front of the two and looked at Chu Luiwei with a worried expression. "Miss Dugu, look, can't you make an exception? As long as you can cure Qifei, the Lin family will definitely treat you as an honored guest in the future." Lin Qifei lowered his eyes, his expression indifferent. "Whether he lives or dies, it's fate. Father, don't force Miss Dugu, it's not that there's no way." Chu Luiwei suddenly spoke. Lin Tianfeng's eyes lit up. "Miss Dugu, please speak." Chu Luiwei smiled and asked in a seemingly casual manner. "I just heard that Master Lin seems to be going to the Holy Sun's birthday banquet?" Lin Tianfeng paused but did not hide it. That's right. Many people knew about this matter now, so there was nothing that could not be said. Chu Luiwei's expression did not change, but the hands in her sleeves slowly clenched. She asked word by word. "May I know the Holy Sun's name, is it? Rongxiu?" "Miss Dugu, be careful with your words." Lin Tianfeng's eyes suddenly widened, and he subconsciously shouted. "How can we call the Holy Sun's name casually?" Chu Luiwei's heart sank. As expected, this Holy Sun is indeed Rongxiu. Then, it seems that the birthday banquet and consort selection are all true? Chu Luiwei was silent for a moment, then she suddenly laughed. "So, when he said that he had something to do back then, he was talking about these? Patriarch Lin, please don't mind me. I was just asking casually. I didn't mean to offend you." Chu Luiwei leaned against the chair and lightly tapped the armrest with a smile on her lips. However, Dugumabao, who was sitting beside her, could clearly feel the cold aura that she was exuding. He raised his eyebrows slightly, and a faint light flashed through his demonic purple eyes. He was to, of course, Lin, Master used to. So, if Master Lin and fourth young master don't mind, why don't we go together? That way, we won't delay our business, and on the other hand, I can keep an eye on fourth young master's health and help him recover as soon as possible. What do you think? Lin Tianfeng thought for a moment, and he was a little tempted. That was indeed a good idea. He looked at Chu Luiwei in surprise. "Miss Dugu is going there too?" That wasn't a place that just anyone could go. Moreover, Dugu was an outsider. It would be even more difficult for her to go. "May I know the purpose of Miss Dugu's trip?" Lin Tianfeng didn't want to get into trouble. An idea popped up in Chu Luiwei's mind as she suddenly glanced at Dugumabao beside her. Dugumabao thought to himself, "Oh no." Chu Luiwei's eyes reddened, and she said in a low voice, "I'm not afraid of being laughed at, but this time, I brought Dabeo here alone because..." Before she could finish, she covered her face with her sleeves and sobbed. Dugumabao's eyelids twitched violently. He clenched his little fists tightly. If not for the last bit of rationality in him, he would have exploded on the spot. Lin Tianfeng and Lin Qifei looked at each other and saw that Dugumabao's usually expressionless face had a ripple of emotion. Excited? Angry? "We were in love, but he said he had something to do and had to leave for a while. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't come back, so I thought to bring Dabeo along to look for him." The father and son looked at each other and understood. So she was here to look for the child's father. "I don't know anything about his background. I only heard him say something like saint, but I don't know anything about his identity. So, if Master Lin and fourth young master can help me this time, Dugu will be very grateful." Chu Luiwei spoke tirelessly. Although it was only a few short sentences, each and every word was filled with sadness and grievance. Anyone who heard it could empathize and be moved. Lin Qifei's eyes rippled. "Miss Dugu, what's the surname of the person you're looking for? Perhaps I should call you madam?" Chu Luiwei smiled bitterly. "The two of you can call me as before. Who knows if his name is real or fake?" Lin Tianfeng stroked his beard. They did occasionally send people to carry out missions outside the Divine Ruins world. Perhaps some soldier had let Duguyu down. He didn't want to get involved in such a dispute, but Ji Fei couldn't do without her. After hesitating for a while, Lin Tianfeng said, "Miss Dugu, your idea isn't impossible. But there's one thing. I hope that after you reach the place, you can wait for us to finish our business before you consider looking for him. As compensation, we can also send people to help you look for him. How about it? As long as they could attend the birthday banquet smoothly, then look for him in private without making a big deal out of it, it would be fine." Chu Luiyue smiled slowly. "Then Dabeo and I will thank Patriarch Lin and fourth young master here. Don't worry, whether we can find him or not, Dabeo and I won't cause you any trouble." As she spoke, she gave Dugu Mabao a look. "Dabeo, why aren't you thanking her?" Dugu Mabao took a deep breath and closed his eyes in despair. "Dabeo? Dabeo?" Chu Luiyue shook his hand. Dugu Mabao forced his eyes open, and every word seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Thank you." Although there was something wrong with his complexion, it was fortunate that he was a meaty ball to begin with. Coupled with his cute voice, no one could tell that there was anything wrong with him. Instead, it only made the Lin father and son feel that he was holding a grudge against this irresponsible father. Thinking of this, Lin Qifei sighed softly. It's always hard to be a mother. Chu Luiyue smiled awkwardly. Considering Dugu Mabao, whose aura was already frighteningly low, she didn't reply in the end. "Then it's settled. For the sake of convenience, when we go there, you will be Ji Fei's personal attendant," Lin Tianfeng said. "Otherwise, rashly adding people is not allowed." Chu Luiyue nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Patriarch Lin. Thank you, fourth young master." Chapter 1034. After the two sides reached an agreement, Chu Luiyue breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, she wanted to find a backer to deal with Lu Yi, but she didn't expect to get the opportunity to go with them through the level 1 teleportation formation. In this case, the whole thing was meaningless, and she didn't have to take Lu Yi's threats and intimidation to heart. Thus, Chu Luiyue began to focus on helping Lin Qifei recuperate. The illness in the fourth young master's body has been delayed for a long time. If you want to completely solve it, you must be ruthless. Unfortunately, his body is very weak now, and he needs to recover for a while before officially starting. Chu Luiyue said, took a pen from the side and wrote down a prescription. "I'll have to trouble the Lin family head to collect the herbs according to this prescription for refining medicine." Lin Tianfeng hurriedly took it. He first glanced at it and recognized that there were indeed many herbs on it that nourished blood and qi, so he nodded. "These things are available in the residence. I'll send someone to get them." Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. Most of the herbs on the prescription were common herbs, but there were also some very precious and rare heaven and earth treasures. Lin Tianfeng said that they had them in the residence, which showed that they had a deep foundation. In the end, it was a clan of the Divine Ruins world. "Patriarch Lin, what I mean is, please go in person, don't let others do it." Chu Luiyue smiled. "Seeing that you are familiar with these herbs, it shouldn't be difficult, right?" The reason why Lin Tianfeng recognized these things was because he had worried too much about Lin Qifei over the years. He had almost become half a celestial physician. Hearing Chu Luiyue's words, he was a little confused and pointed to himself. "It's not difficult. But why do I have to do it personally?" Suddenly, his expression changed. "You mean, someone will do something to these herbs? I'm a celestial physician, and the news of me coming to treat the fourth young master has probably spread by now. Although fourth young master was born with this illness, it shouldn't have been this serious. It's obvious that someone did something to it." Chu Luiyue wanted to say something, but hesitated. He fixed his gaze on Lin Tianfeng and saw him frown. "I don't know anything else. I only know that you treat fourth young master with sincerity. Therefore, it is only safe to take the medicine from you." After Chu Luiyue finished speaking, the room fell into a dead silence. Lin Qifei raised his eyes slightly and gave Chu Luiyue a meaningful look. She was rather smart. She had just arrived at the Lin mansion not long ago and had already deduced so many things after taking his pulse once. "I understand," Lin Tianfeng said, then turned and left. Of course, he wasn't worried about what Chu Luiwei would do. That was because other than him, there were many other experts guarding the courtyard. Furthermore, after their conversation, he had developed an indescribable trust towards that woman. This time, he could only take a gamble. After Lin Tianfeng left, Chu Luiwei looked at Lin Qifei again. If fourth young master doesn't mind, may I try to treat you first? Lin Qifei didn't say anything, but extended his thin and pale wrist. He hesitated for a moment and didn't put on the handkerchief beside him. Chu Luiwei took his pulse and quickly glanced at him. The father and son were very cautious when taking pulses. Clearly, they had suffered in this area before. It wasn't hard to imagine how he had spent the past few years with his body in this state. However, these thoughts only flashed through her mind. Chu Luiwei quickly held her breath and focused, then separated a stream of force and injected it into his body. This time, she split out a bit more origin power than before. As it flowed through Lin Qifei's Yuan meridian, Chu Luiwei deliberately controlled her own force and hit the thing that was attached to it. Hiss! Lin Qifei cried out in pain, his face instantly pale. Chu Luiwei frowned slightly. Is it very painful? Lin Qifei pursed his lips and shook his head. It's fine, you can continue. Chu Luiwei nodded. Bear with it. Then she tried a second time. This time, Lin Qifei's expression was still enduring, but he didn't make any sound. As for that strange thing, under the impact of this force, it suddenly ran to the side. Chu Luiwei's mind moved, and the force instantly transformed into a scarlet flame. It quickly chased after it. A scorching pain instantly spread through his body. Lin Qifei's face instantly flushed red. The veins on his forehead bulged. At this moment, the flame had already filled up the Yuan meridian at an incomparably rapid pace. The raging fire burned. In a daze, Chu Luiwei even heard an ear-piercing scream. Soon, the ball-like thing on the Yuan meridian fell off one by one and was burned to ashes by the flame. Ugh! Lin Qifei finally couldn't help but groan. Chu Luiwei glanced at him from the corner of her eye and saw that his forehead was covered in sweat and his lips were deathly pale. Only then did she retract the flame. The moment she released her hand, Lin Qifei finally heaved a heavy sigh and collapsed weakly on the chair. It looked as if he had been fished out of the water and was in a very sorry state. Chu Luiwei sighed. This was just a simple test, but it had already made him so uncomfortable. It would take a lot of effort to completely cure him. Let's stop here for today. Fourth young master, rest well. This old illness can't be rushed. Lin Qifei nodded. Thank you. Although the pain in his body was unbearable, he did feel a subtle change. This gave him a glimmer of hope in his heart. Perhaps the woman in front of him could really cure him. Fourth young master has helped us before. We are just returning the favor. Fourth young master, you don't have to mind. We won't disturb you for now. With that, Chu Luiwei left with Dugumabao. After the two figures completely disappeared, Lin Qifei slowly closed his eyes. After a while, a voice came from the side. Fourth young master, do you need us to warn Lu Yi? Lu Yue would help suppress the things that Lu Yi did, and rarely would it reach Lin Tianfeng's ears. But yesterday, Lu Yi sent people to block the level 2 and 3 teleportation formations, intending to lock Duguyu and her son in the city. It had already caused quite a ruckus, and they just had to ask around to find out. Lin Qifei waved his hand. No need. This time, he finally met his nemesis. Let him do as he pleases. Yes. Moreover, the Lu family has taken advantage of our Lin family. We might as well take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of them together. Fourth young master has always been a strategist. This time, it's mainly because of Duguyu. Lin Qifei smiled. She's also a smart person. Without her help, he really wouldn't have this opportunity. More important, his body, if he could really recover, with such ability, I don't know what her husband is thinking. Probably blind. Chapter 1035. When Chu Luiwei brought Dugumabao back to the inn, it was already nighttime. For the sake of convenience and also to keep it a secret, the two of them booked a room. Chu Luiwei wanted to let him have the bed, but Dugumabao rejected her outright. According to him, his divine body had already been formed. Even if he did not eat or sleep for a month, there would be no problem. Therefore, at night, Chu Liwei took the big bed, and Dugumabao stayed on the small couch at the side. The two of them had always been at peace. However, today, when Dugumabao came back, he flew straight to the small couch and sat cross-legged. Then, he stared at Chu Liwei with a cold expression. Chu Liwei had just closed the door when she turned around and saw a purple dumpling emitting cold air. Cough! Chu Liwei looked away guiltily and moved to the side, wanting to put this matter behind her. However, Dugumabao did not let her do as she wished. How long do you plan to use this identity? Dugumabao asked coldly. Chu Liwei rubbed her temples and smiled awkwardly at him. Dabeo, look, I have no choice. If not, we don't know how long we'll be trapped here. Moreover, I've never admitted that we're mother and son. Meeting Dugumabao's cold gaze, Chu Liwei immediately stopped and changed the topic. Don't worry, when we reach the place and reveal our identities, the truth will be revealed. Actually, she had never taken the initiative to admit that she was Dabeo's mother, nor did she say that the person she was looking for was Dabeo's father. She just changed the way she said it, and they automatically made the connection and misunderstood. Alright, Dabeo, don't be angry, okay? Chu Liwei put her palms together and smiled brightly. Seeing her like this, the remaining anger in Dabeo's heart quickly dissipated. He turned his face away. There won't be a next time. I knew Dabeo was the best. Chu Liwei couldn't help but rush over, wanting to rub his chubby little face. Dugumabao seemed to have sensed something and turned to look at her. Chu Liui's hand was just inches away. Her movements suddenly froze. The two of them were silent for a moment. Chu Liwei made up his mind and quickly pinched his cheeks, pulling a big smile on his face. Why you pulling a long face all the time? It's better to smile more. After saying that, Chu Liwei hurriedly picked up the shattered pieces of Will to Live and retreated at an even faster speed. I'm going to cultivate now. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already sat down cross-legged, and a red flame lingered in his palm. Dugumabao stared blankly and instinctively reached out to touch the spot where she had just pinched. There seemed to be a trace of warmth left by her fingers. A dark color flashed across his beautiful, almost demonic purple eyes. Although he had changed his physical body, his personality hadn't changed much. She was probably the only one who had the guts and arrogance to say such things to him. She was like that in the past, and she was like that now. Dugumabao looked at her quietly for a while, and the indifferent coldness in his eyes gradually melted. After a moment, he turned his gaze and looked at the mirror beside him. A strange yet familiar face was reflected in the bronze mirror. His eyes flashed. This face was indeed that of a child, but it was indeed the face of him in the past. He stared at the person in the mirror for a while. The little person in the mirror was also staring at him. Her expression was cold, her eyes were cold, and there was a faint trace of heavy pressure. It looked like it was indeed a little unpleasant. His heart skipped a beat, and he tried to make the corners of his mouth curl up slowly. It was a little stiff. It was very unfamiliar. Dugumabao felt uncomfortable in his heart, and for a moment he was a little angry. This smile wasn't good at all. It was completely different from the bright smile on her face. She just asked him to smile more, but who would like such a smile? He pursed his lips and was about to look away, but after hesitating for a while, he couldn't help but look back. After struggling for a long time, he finally pulled the corners of his mouth and changed to a smile. This time was different from the last time. Unfortunately, it looked even weirder. Dugumabao resisted the urge to smash the mirror. Just as he was hesitating whether to try again, he suddenly heard a sound behind him. He panicked and hurriedly lifted the blanket, crawled under it, and turned his back, pretending to be asleep. Chu Liwei opened her eyes and saw this scene. She couldn't help but ask curiously, "Dabeo, what's wrong?" Dugumabao's muffled voice came from under the blanket. "I'm going to sleep, don't disturb me." Chu Liwei replied with an "oh." Looking at the small bump on the small bed, Chu Liwei finally couldn't help but remind him softly. Didn't you say that the divine body doesn't fear the cold and heat, and even if it's sleeping, it doesn't need a blanket? Dugamabao fell into a dead silence. After a while, Dugamabao finally bit the bullet and lifted the blanket. His short purple hair was messed up and his ears still had a trace of redness that had not faded away. He said fiercely, "Let's go. Looks like you don't want to sleep. Great, I'll practice with you today." The next morning, the morning sun shone into the room. The two of them sat facing each other, and there was a chessboard outlined with silver lines between them. The red dots on the chessboard were Chu Liyue's chess pieces, and the purple ones were Dugamabao's. The battle was fierce. Oh no, it should be said that the red chess pieces were being slaughtered by the purple chess pieces. Dugamabao waved his small hand, and a purple dot fell. Boom! A purple light suddenly appeared. In an instant, it enveloped the entire chessboard. In the blink of an eye, the red chess pieces were completely destroyed. When all the light gradually dissipated, Dugamabao looked at Chu Liyue. Round 372, I won. Chu Liyue supported herself on the armrest of the chair, panting heavily. She was sweating profusely, and the force in her body was almost exhausted. She couldn't help but say with a sad face, You won every round. Why are you counting so clearly?" "Of course, it's to let you know how weak you are now," Dugamabao said calmly. "However, your improvement is also very obvious. You've made 23 moves in this round, which is much better than the start." Chu Liyue's mouth twitched. "Thank you for the compliment, but it's not necessary." It was better not to compliment her. 23 moves. She had never been defeated so miserably in the hands of someone before. She rubbed her sore neck and couldn't help but glance at Dugamabao. "Speaking of which, Dabao, I didn't expect you to be a Xian master too. What level are you now?" Previously, she only knew that Dugumabao's combat strength was very strong, but she didn't know that his cultivation level was so high as well. At the very least, it was the first time she had seen it in her life. Dugamabao said straightforwardly, "Now, you just need to know that I'm higher than you." Chu Liyue was speechless. "Let's go. It's time for us to go to the Lin residence." As she spoke, she stood up. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion outside. Then, the door was suddenly kicked open. "Dugyu, get out here." Chapter 1036. Following this angry roar, two figures barged in from outside. Chu Liyue raised his eyes and looked at the newcomers. They were two burly men dressed in black. Their muscles bulged exaggeratedly, and their faces were fierce and ferocious. Outside the door, the waiter looked at them nervously. He seemed to be worried, but he did not dare to come forward. Chu Liyue saw this and immediately understood the identity of the newcomers. "Lu Yi's men?" Chu Liyue asked coldly. "Hey, these little girls had some eyesight." One of the men spoke in a deep voice. When it reached her ears, it was as if her heart was being smashed by something. Both of them were stronger than her. Chu Liyue quickly judged the situation in front of her. While quietly protecting Dugamabao behind her, she quickly circulated the force in her body and sneered. "He has already ordered us not to use the teleportation portal at Grotto Heaven Cliff. Isn't that enough? How far does he want to push us before he gives up? You offended someone you shouldn't offend and still want to escape unscathed. How can there be such a good thing?" The other man next to him sneered. "Our big brother doesn't have that much patience." It turned out that Lu Yi originally thought that after all the teleportation portals were sealed, Duguyu would definitely kowtow and apologize. But he did not expect that after waiting for a day and a night, he did not even see half a shadow. This made him even angrier. Duguyu was different from the others. She was an outsider. It was harder for her to survive here than others. There was no way she didn't know about this. However, even at this point, she was still stubbornly holding on without showing any expression. This made Lu Yi feel very embarrassed. After all, the matter had already been blown out of proportion. Many people at Grotto Heaven Cliff knew that he was targeting Duguyu. If he still could not get rid of her after such a long time, where would he put his dignity in the future? Therefore, Lu Yi could not take this lying down and directly sent people to the door. "Come with us." Chu Liyue calmed himself down. "I'm sorry, but I have something important to do today." Please forgive me for not being able to travel with you. Although her voice was very soft, her tone was very firm and did not allow for rejection. This attitude immediately angered the other party. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. I'll teach you a good lesson today. Before he finished speaking, a burly man had already rushed over. He punched out. The wind from the fist whistled. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of him. Chu Liwei quickly set up a barrier in front of him. Boom. The barrier only lasted for a moment before it began to crack. Taking advantage of this brief moment, Chu Liwei pulled up his dugemabao and jumped out of the window behind him. The two figures instantly disappeared. Chase. People came and went on the streets. Chu Liwei and Wang Chang's sudden jump down attracted a lot of attention. Over there. Chu Liwei had just stood still when he heard a loud shout from not far away. She quickly glanced in that direction. Dugu Mabao whispered, 3 people in the north and 2 in the south. Their strength is above a rank 8 warrior. It turned out that Lu Yi had directly sent a group of people to surround and intercept her. This road was to the north and south, and now her path was completely blocked. Let's see where you can run to. At this moment, the 2 people upstairs also jumped down together. Just these alone, there were already a total of 8 people. Chu Liue's mind raced, gritted his teeth, and headed west. This Lu Yi really thinks highly of me. Chu Liue sneered as he moved forward at full speed. He already knows that you can teleport, so naturally he will be more vigilant against you. Dugu Mabao knew that the situation was urgent and did not care about being hugged by Chu Liue again. He put this account on Lu Yi's head. Chu Liue and Dugu Mabao went all the way, and the people on the street all dodged. Behind them, Chu Liue had already heard the sound of those people chasing after them. Everyone had different expressions, but no one wanted to come up to help. Instead, they all avoided them like snakes and scorpions. Chu Liue sneered, but he was not surprised. They must know that these were Lu Yi's people, so who would dare to provoke them? Originally, he thought that they would not go too far in the downtown area. But now, it seemed that this path would not work. Lu Yi, together with his subordinates, were very arrogant. They did not put these in their eyes at all. Since this didn't work, then he had to find another way. Chu Liue's thoughts moved, and he directly turned around and headed towards the small street. Damn it! How can this woman be so fast? At first, they did not put Chu Liue in their eyes. After all, there were so many of them. Moreover, even if Chu Liue could enter the Void God realm, his strength was not weak. It would be inconvenient for him to bring a child with him. They did not expect that after chasing for a while, they were still a distance away from Chu Liue. Don't worry, she won't be able to escape. This heavenly cave cliff is full of our people. She will fall sooner or later. Her speed seems to be slower than before. Chase after her. The surrounding noise gradually dissipated, and Chu Liue entered a remote and quiet place. At this time, the people behind had already caught up. One of them directly attacked and threw out a force. Chu Liue hurriedly dealt with it. Then, like a headless fly, he crawled into an alley. You're courting death. When the people chasing after him saw this, they looked at each other and laughed proudly. Swoosh, swoosh. The group of people divided into 2 groups and attacked from the front and back. Chu Liue entered the alley and seemed to realize that something was wrong. Just as he was about to turn around and retreat, the entrance of the alley was already blocked. Where do you think you're going? A few burly men lined up in a row, easily blocking her way. Chu Liue's expression changed slightly. Then, he quickly looked behind him and saw a few people quickly appearing behind him. They had completely surrounded him in this narrow and quiet alley. The atmosphere fell into a stalemate. The man in the lead looked down at Chu Liue. Do you want to leave by yourself? Or, do you want us to bring you away? Chu Liue paused. What if I don't choose? You don't know what's good for you. Seeing that Chu Liue was not going to give in, they lost their patience. The man in the lead waved his hand. Take her back. As long as she's still alive. After saying that, the few of them were about to attack when they saw the woman suddenly smile. Her smile was light and bright, and her eyes were like stars. It made her originally very ordinary face look lively and beautiful. Are you guys coming one by one or together? Hearing this, the few men were stunned. Then, one of them sneered as if he had heard a joke. You want to fight us? With just you? Chu Luiwei tilted his head. With just me. Chapter 1037. Lu Yi was waiting in his mansion, bored to death. It's been so long, why haven't they come back yet? He glanced at the sky and asked impatiently. A young woman serving next to him hurriedly said, maybe they were delayed by something. It's just catching someone back, what can be delayed? Louis didn't think so. They didn't do their job well, I must teach them a lesson when they come back. The woman saw that he was about to get angry, so she followed his words and said softly, they are your subordinates. What do you want to do? How do you want to deal with them? Isn't it just a matter of a word? It's not worth getting angry over this. Hearing her say this, Lu Yi's mood improved a little, and he touched the woman's waist with an evil smile. Pan, you are the most obedient, the most pleasing to this young master. Pan, smiled gently and shyly, leaning into his arms. Young master, you are someone who will do great things in the future. Isn't it degrading to argue with them? Just the fact that you can go to that place to participate in the Holy Son's birthday banquet, I don't know how many people envy you. Hearing this, Lu Yi, who was still smiling, frowned and pushed her to the ground. Pan, cried out in pain and looked up in panic, only to see his gloomy face. She asked timidly, Young master, what's wrong with you? Lu Yi swept the tea set on the table next to him to the ground. Don't mention it. Last night, the Lin mansion sent a message, saying that I can't go. Pan's eyes widened. Why is this? Didn't we agree before? Lu Yi sneered and cursed. It's all because of that sick man. He said that he wanted to bring an extra celestial physician to take care of him. The quota at Cave Heaven Cliff is limited, so that old man Lin Tianfeng directly replaced me. In fact, according to his identity and qualifications, he was not qualified to go. Lu Yuer helped him for a long time in the middle, and finally helped him get this opportunity. He didn't expect that when he was about to leave, there would be another accident. The father and son have long disliked me, especially that Lin Qifei. This time, he must be the one behind it. Logically speaking, an evil creature who had cursed his own mother to death should have died long ago. Who would have thought that with this delay, he would actually survive until now? And Lin Tianfeng just had to treat him the best. If it wasn't for him, my sister wouldn't have stayed in the Lin family for so many years without giving birth to a son. The more Lu Yi spoke, the angrier he got. His chest seemed to be burning with rage. Pan fell to the ground, trembling, not daring to say a word. Lu Yi took a deep breath and suddenly sneered. However, he won't be complacent for long. Young master. Not good. At this moment, a panicked voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. A pale-faced manservant ran over and knelt down in front of Lu Yi, pointing outside. Young master. Bad news. Outside the door, Lu Yi kicked him. Speak properly. The manservant felt a dull pain in his chest, but he didn't dare to make a sound. Young master, they are back. They are now at the door, outside the door. You should go and see for yourself. Lu Yi finally realized that something was wrong and immediately lifted his foot to walk outside. When he walked straight all the way to the gate, he saw a few boxes placed outside the door at a glance. The boxes were unlocked and seemed to have been opened by someone. At the edge, he could vaguely see some blood stains. As for the guards who were in charge of guarding the door, they were all standing to the side in fear. It was as if there was something terrifying in the box. Lu Yi's heart sank. Open the box. He ordered in a deep voice. The guards looked at each other and finally stepped forward together and carefully opened the box. Patter. The box was opened. When he saw what was inside, Lu Yi's pupils shrank. The people inside were none other than the few people he had sent out. Taking a closer look, there were exactly 8 of them. At this time, they were all covered in blood and stuffed into the box in a strange posture. It was a ghastly sight. Young master, they are not dead yet, but one of the guards braced himself and said, But their tendons have been cut off. I'm afraid they will be crippled in the future. This was even crueler and more ruthless than directly killing someone. Death would be the end of everything, and people like them would be crippled from now on. That would only make them suffer more pain and torture. Lu Yi's face was ashen, and he could not believe it. It went without saying how they got injured. It must be that Duguyu who did it. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles almost cracked. Duguyu, you are courting death. When Chu Luiwei arrived at the gate of the Lin mansion, a guard greeted her with a smile. Miss Dugu, you are finally here. Master and fourth young master have been waiting for you for a long time. Chu Luiwei smiled faintly. There was a little trouble on the way, so I was delayed for a while. It's fine, it's fine. Please come in. With that, the guard quickly led Chu Luiwei and Dugu Mabao into the mansion. After a smooth journey, they finally arrived at Lin Qifei's courtyard. As soon as they entered, Lin Tianfeng and Lin Qifei both looked over. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly said, Miss Dugu, the herbs are all prepared, and they are all here. See if there is anything missing. Chu Luiwei walked over with a smile. Master Lin personally prepared the herbs, so there will naturally be no problem. Next, let's start refining. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly nodded. Lin Qifei's nose twitched as he sniffed. He looked up at Chu Luiwei. What a strong smell of blood. Digression, it's the end of the month, don't forget to vote. We will continue at 6 p.m. Chapter 1038. Chu Luiwei seemed to sense something. She looked up at him and smiled. Fourth young master, what's wrong? Looking at that pair of clear eyes, Lin Qifei withdrew his line of sight and shook his head gently. Nothing. I'll have to trouble Miss Dugu for my condition. Chu Luiwei smiled deeply. Fourth young master, you're welcome. She walked over to check Lin Qifei's pulse. Before I go in to refine pills, I'd like to check on fourth young master's condition. Lin Qifei stretched out his hand. His sleeve, embroidered with bamboo leaves, was pulled up slightly, revealing a slender, white wrist. One could even see the veins on it. Chu Luiwei raised her hand. Lin Tianfeng suddenly handed over a handkerchief and was about to put it on his wrist. Lin Qifei raised his eyes and glanced at him. He said indifferently, Thank you, father. But since I've already agreed to Miss Dugu's help, there's no need for this. Lin Tianfeng was stunned. Surprise flashed across his eyes. He said, No need? But didn't he hate being touched the most? Because there was once someone who pretended to be a celestial physician and took advantage of the opportunity to take his pulse. Lin Qifei had been very cautious in this regard ever since. But now, he actually trusted Duguyu so much? Lin Tianfeng was puzzled. But seeing his calm expression, he didn't continue and put away the handkerchief. Then please continue, Miss Dugu. Chu Luiwei didn't seem to notice the confrontation between father and son. She smiled faintly and stretched out her hand to check his pulse. Compared to yesterday, Lin Qifei's aura was clearly stronger. Although it couldn't be compared to a normal person, it was much better than his initial condition. Chu Luiwei nodded and injected a stream of force into his body. Then, she followed the same procedure as yesterday and did it again. Lin Qifei's expression was one of forbearance. Throughout the entire process, he did not let out a single cry of pain. However, his complexion became even paler, and many fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked very miserable. Lin Tianfeng, who was watching from the side, was scared witless. So, this is how Duguyu treats Qifei? Yesterday, he had left early and didn't see it. Today, when he suddenly saw it, his heart almost jumped out of his throat. There were even a few times when Lin Tianfeng's heart ached too much. If it weren't for Qifei's constant signals to calm him down, he would have opened his mouth to shout for them to stop. This time, Chu Luiwei helped him clean up some of the strange things that had accumulated in his Yuan meridian. To her, this was also a huge drain. When it was over, she let out a long sigh. All right, I'll go refine medicine first. Fourth young master, you can rest and recuperate for now. Lin Qifei saw that she looked a little tired, so he asked, What's wrong? Miss Dugu, you also seem to need a good rest. I've been sick for many years, so a little more won't make a difference. Why don't we wait for Miss Dugu to recover before continuing? Lin Tianfeng expressed his agreement. That's right. Although I'm not a celestial physician, I know that celestial physicians often expend a lot of energy when refining pills. Miss Dugu, you see, thank you for your concern, Patriarch Lin and Fourth Princess. I know what I'm doing and won't do anything rash. Chu Liwei stood up and smiled. More than anyone else, I hope that this pill refinement will succeed on the first try. Naturally, I will make preparations. The two of you don't need to worry. However, there's one thing. This pill refinement will take about a day and a night. I hope Patriarch Lin can help protect me. If it were someone else, they most likely wouldn't have the guts to directly ask Lin Tianfeng to protect them. Generally speaking, only the most powerful 9th-grade celestial physician in the clan could ask Lin Tianfeng for help. But in the face of Chu Liyue's bold proposal, Lin Tianfeng agreed without hesitation. No problem. As long as she could take care of Ji Fei in the end, this was nothing. I've already ordered someone to arrange a room for Miss Dugu to use for pill refinement. It's not far from here. Also, I wonder if Miss Dugu still needs something like a medicinal cauldron? Lin Tianfeng asked tentatively. Our Lin family happens to have a collection of medicinal cauldrons that are very useful for pill refinement. Miss Dugu, thank you for your kindness, Patriarch Lin. But I have my own medicinal cauldron, so I don't need to borrow yours. Chu Liwei declined with a smile. Lin Tianfeng was slightly disappointed. Dugu Yu was an outsider, so her medicinal cauldron shouldn't be any better. He had wanted to provide her with a better medicinal cauldron so that she could refine pills more smoothly, but he didn't expect her to be so uninterested. However, Lin Tianfeng knew that most celestial physicians were a little arrogant. Since she had said so, there was no need to persuade her anymore. Then, Chu Liwei took the medicinal herbs to the room specially set aside for her pill refinement. At the door, Lin Tianfeng looked at Dugu Mabao and asked, Miss Dugu, since you want to focus on pill refinement, why don't we take care of this child for the time being? Dugu Mabao frowned. Chu Liwei hurriedly said, Thank you, Patriarch Lin, but this child is afraid of strangers. Let him go in with me. Lin Tianfeng found it a little strange. Wouldn't such a small child be a hindrance if he went in? But it just so happens that Dabeo is preparing to start learning celestial physician. It's not a problem to let him follow along. Chu Liwei added. Lin Tianfeng choked. If he wanted to learn from his mother, there was nothing for outsiders to say. At this time, Lin Jifei, who was next to him, also opened his mouth. Since Miss Dugu insists, then let's do it. Chu Liwei was relieved. She bowed to the two of them, turned around, and walked in with Dugu Mabao. After the two of them disappeared, Lin Tianfeng looked at Lin Qifei and sighed. Qifei, you seem to have a lot of trust in them. Lin Qifei glanced at the tightly shut doors and windows, and a slight ripple appeared in the depths of his clear eyes. She's just a pitiful girl with a child alone. Lin Tianfeng felt suffocated in his heart. He knew that Jifei was like this because he thought of him when he saw them. Actually, what happened to your mother back then really had nothing to do with you. Besides, it's been so long. Jifei, you don't have to take it to heart. Lin Tianfeng said with some hesitation. Besides, didn't have a child all these years because of you. Are you still unwilling to let go of your prejudice against her? Hearing this, Lin Qifei's indifferent and calm expression finally showed a trace of fluctuation. His pale lips curled up slightly as he looked at Lin Tianfeng, a faint smile appearing on his face. The sunlight shone on his face, making him look like a piece of glass that was both bright and fragile. Whatever father says, it's what it is. You, Lin Tianfeng choked and was about to say something when he heard a slightly nervous and urgent female voice. Master. Not good. Chapter 1039. It was Lu Yu's voice. Lin Tianfeng looked up and saw Lu Yu hurrying in from outside the courtyard, her face full of anxiety. When she reached the courtyard gate, she was stopped by a servant, as expected. Mistress, please wait. Lu Yu's already anxious mood worsened when she was stopped. She was the mistress of the Lin family, but she didn't even have the right to enter this small courtyard. She hadn't been able to take a single step in all these years. Because Lin Qifei lived here, the entire Lin family couldn't enter at will. Even Lin Tianfeng had to send someone to notify them. However, the other members of the Lin family had more or less entered, but she hadn't been allowed even once. Everyone in the Lin family knew that Lin Qifei didn't like her as a stepmother. Even if she had become the mistress of the Lin family, he still didn't care about her. But no matter how much hatred she felt, Lu Yu wouldn't show it in front of these people. So she stood obediently outside the door and looked inside with a face full of anxiety. Soon, Lin Tianfeng came over. "What's wrong? What's the hurry?" Lin Tianfeng pulled Lu Yu aside as he walked. Lu Yu's heart felt stifled again, but she didn't show it. She only grabbed Lin Tianfeng's arm anxiously with tears in her eyes. "Master, Yu rarely asks you for anything, but this time, Yu really has no other choice," she cried pitifully, and Lin Tianfeng's heart ached for her. "Don't cry. What's going on? I'll definitely help you." Only then did Lu Yu wipe away her tears and say intermittently, "It's about Lu." A trace of impatience flashed across Lin Tianfeng's face when he heard this name. "He's really been bullied this time," Lu Yu complained tearfully. Lin Tianfeng said indifferently, "He has always been the one bullying others. When has anyone ever been able to bully him?" Lu Yu knew that he never liked Lu Yi, so when Lu Yi made trouble, she tried her best to suppress it and not let it spread here. But it was different this time. "Master, you don't know, but several of Lu Yi's subordinates were beaten half to death this time. Their tendons were also cut off. They were stuffed into boxes and sent to Lu Yi's door. If this wasn't a threat, then what was it?" Lin Tianfeng's expression changed slightly. "Really? There were probably not many people in the entire Heavenly Cave Cliff who would dare to do such a thing. Why would Yu lie to you? He came just now, and his clothes were stained with blood." Lu Yu's eyes flashed with resentment. She really hated the people who treated Lu Yi like this behind his back. So this time, she came to complain tearfully. Things had turned out like this. If she couldn't help Lu Yi, then in the future, many people in Dongtian Cliff would ridicule and abuse him. Lin Tianfeng frowned. "Do you know who the person is?" Lu Yu was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, This? I didn't have time to ask. But the person who dares to do this in Dongtian Cliff must not be a simple person. In Yuer's opinion, this time, maybe it's because of the Lin family, maybe? Although Lu Yi was not a member of the Lin family, who didn't know his relationship with the Lin family? Daring to be so ruthless to him, they obviously didn't put the Lin family in their eyes. Wasn't acting wildly in the Lin family's territory a provocation to the Lin family? Lin Tianfeng frowned when he heard this. "Master, why don't you let Lu Yi come over now and talk to you personally?" Lu Yu asked tentatively. Lin Tianfeng pondered for a moment, looked back and shook his head. "Not today." "Why?" "I have something to do today. Tell him to come back tomorrow." Although Lu Yi's matter was not small, it was not as important as Jifei's elixir. Duguyu asked him to help protect her, so he must not go back on his words. Otherwise, if something went wrong, who could bear the responsibility? Hearing Lin Tianfeng's words, Lu Yu almost guessed something. She couldn't help but take a look inside. You're busy with Jifei's matter?" Lin Tianfeng didn't hear anything wrong in her voice and just nodded. "You go back first, just wait for a day. Tomorrow at this time, bring Lu Yi over." With that, he turned around and planned to go in. "Master," Lu Yu shouted unwillingly. Lin Tianfeng glanced at her and pondered for a moment. "Why don't you send someone to investigate first and see what's going on? I'll deal with this matter tomorrow." After saying that, he ignored Lu Yu and walked straight in. Lu Yu looked at his back gradually disappearing and slowly clenched her fists. Her delicately manicured nails dug deep into her palms, stinging. She suddenly woke up, took a deep breath, and turned to leave. "What? He won't see me?" Hearing Lu Yu's words, Lu Yi suddenly jumped out of his chair. "I've already been bullied to the point of being on top of my head. How can he still be so indifferent? Even if he doesn't do it for me, he has to consider the Lin family's reputation?" What are you shouting for? Lu Yue was also very irritated and reprimanded. You're not his son, he naturally won't care about you. In the past 2 days, a celestial physician came and said that she could cure Lin Qifei's illness. Of course he's nervous. Lu Yi couldn't help but sneer. It's been so long, how many celestial physicians have come? He still hasn't given up. That Lin Qifei is just waiting for death. Maybe this time on the way there, Lu Yue gave him a warning glare. Although this is my residence, it's still the Lin family. Watch your words. If you have the time, why don't you tell me in detail who's so bold to do these things? Lu Yi was a little guilty. In the end, he wanted to rob the other party first. Lu Yue had reminded him several times before not to be so blatant. If she knew, I'm not sure now, the other party didn't leave any clues, he lowered his eyes and said vaguely. Lu Yue was very irritated. It's useless. Then let's wait first. It would be much easier to wait for the Lin family to investigate. Although Lu Yi was sullen, he didn't dare to say anything more and could only agree. Inside the room, Chu Luiyue first set up a barrier around the room. After making sure that the aura and fluctuations here wouldn't spread outside, he summoned the heavenly square cauldron. Are you really going to use this thing? Dugu Mabao saw the transparent cauldron and his eyes flashed slightly. This is my biggest reliance at the moment. Chu Luiyue shrugged. Otherwise, I'm not confident that I can refine the pill in one try. Dugu Mabao pondered for a moment. You're really willing? To be able to get the pill refined by Chu Luiyue with the heavenly square cauldron, Lin Qifei was also very lucky. Chu Luiyue curled his lips. It's not a loss to use this pill in exchange for the opportunity to attend the birthday banquet of His Highness Saint. Digression, Rong Xiu, my wife seems to be scolding me. February, get rid of the seams. Rong Xiu? Chapter 1040. Dugu Mabao acutely sensed a faint, terrifying aura. He did not continue the topic. This woman was terrifying when she went crazy. Let Rong Xiu bear the consequences himself. Whoever made a mistake should bear the consequences. Whoever hid the truth should bear the consequences. As Chu Luiyue counted the herbs and lined them up, she glanced at Dugu Mabao in a seemingly unintentional manner and asked in a seemingly smiling manner, Don't you think so, Dabeo? Dugu Mabao nodded reluctantly. Boom! A ball of red flames suddenly burned in the heavenly square cauldron. Dugu Mabao's eyes twitched. But at least the name is real. Chu Luiyue controlled the flames in the heavenly square cauldron with one hand. She waved her other hand and threw a red fist-sized 10,000 fragrance immortal fruit into the cauldron. The dancing red flames swarmed forward and devoured it completely. Soon, the 10,000 fragrance immortal fruit was refined into a ball of light red powder. A faint, sweet, and slightly bitter aroma filled the air. Otherwise, it would be impossible to find it in this vast world. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly and said slowly as if she was teasing him. The dancing flames reflected in her eyes, making it hard to fathom. Dugu Mabao suddenly regretted following her in. Waiting outside didn't seem like a bad idea. Dabeo, you said that I lost my memory. Why does the whole world know except for me? Chu Luiyue asked lazily as she threw the second herb into the cauldron. It was a cocklebur root as thick as an arm. The red flames in the heavenly square cauldron split into two and wrapped around it tightly. Then, it quickly tightened and burned crazily. Following a series of ear-piercing crackling sounds, the green and tender skin of the cocklebur root quickly dried up. The bright red juice inside also started to drip down. Dugu Mabao looked at the tightly shut door and the barrier that was glowing faintly. He fell silent. If he didn't use his origin power, he wouldn't be able to open the barrier and leave. Dabeo, why aren't you saying anything? Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at him. Dugu Mabao changed his sitting position and turned his face away. You will eventually know what you need to know. Fine, it was as good as not saying anything. Chu Luiyue pursed his lips slightly, but he didn't care too much. She did not expect to get anything out of Dugu Mabao. If he was willing to speak, he would have done so a long time ago. Why wait until now? However, this also made her even more certain that he had long known about Rong Xiu's identity as the Holy Sun. But until now, they still refused to tell her. Forget it. Anyway, he was about to go, so he could just ask directly when the time came. Thinking of this, Chu Luiwei waved his hand. The dozens of medicinal herbs on the side all fell into the heavenly square cauldron. She held her breath and focused her attention, beginning to put all her thoughts on refining medicine. The room was silent. Lin Qifei waited outside the door for a while, but he didn't hear any movement inside. He understood that she must have set up a barrier inside to isolate everything. When he first met her, he didn't think much of her. This woman looked ordinary, but she was bold and meticulous. He didn't know who her master was, for her eyes to be so sharp. If she didn't have that child with her talent, she should be able to create a world of her own in the world of God very quickly. Lin Tianfeng returned quickly. Lin Qifei wanted to leave immediately, but he was stopped. Looking at him. Jifei, the elders have already done according to the method you gave them. That teleportation array should be repaired soon. This time, it's all thanks to you. Lin Qifei smiled faintly, but his eyes were still cold and distant. I just gave some suggestions. The repair of the teleportation array depended on the combined efforts of the elders. It has nothing to do with me. Father, don't take it to heart. You, Lin Tianfeng sighed. I know that you don't want people to know that it was you who did it, so I never told them. You have been very low-key all these years, and this is not the first time something like this has happened. But, you are still the blood of the Lin family. If Dugu can really cure you this time, the Lin family, that's all in the future, and we don't know yet. Father, don't mention it. I'm a little tired, so I'll take my leave. With that, Lin Qifei left without waiting for Lin Tianfeng's reply. Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but sigh when that figure disappeared. So many people wanted to fight for the position of the head of the Lin family, but he wasn't interested at all. He knew that a large part of the reason was that Lin Qifei was worried about his own health. But this time, Lin Tianfeng turned around to take a look. Now, all his hopes were placed on that woman. Time flew by. When Chu Luiwei finally finished refining all the herbs, the moon was already high in the sky. Inside the heavenly square cauldron, all the herbs were separated from each other, looking colorful. All kinds of scents mixed together, forming a unique medicinal fragrance. Although it wasn't the first time Chu Luiwei used the heavenly square cauldron, she couldn't help but sigh. A cauldron that could directly refine such a pure medicinal effect was really hard to find even if one searched the entire world. This also made her more confident of success. Now that the herbs had been refined, the next step was to form the pill. Chu Luiwei made up her mind. Then, she controlled the flame and gradually fused the herbs together. At this moment, the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron suddenly emitted a buzzing sound. Digression. Seeing that the monthly votes seemed to have overtaken one place, I angrily added one more chapter. In addition, there are already 36 competitors for the star of the monthly votes. The first batch is already on their way. Chapter 1041. Chu Luiwei was shocked and immediately looked over. She saw that at the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron, the two Tian babies had gathered together and were circling each other. And that buzzing sound was the result of the mutual influence between their powers. An invisible ripple rapidly spread out. Chu Luiwei was shocked and slammed her hand on the heavenly square cauldron. The transparent karmic fire burned brightly. Stop! Flames began to rise. Like a sprite jumping. It quickly intercepted that wave of energy. Buzz! The remaining power hit the inner wall of the heavenly square cauldron and made a loud roar. Half of Chu Luiwei's arm was numb. But she didn't dare to let go. Her palm was still tightly attached to the heavenly square cauldron and she continued to inject force into it. She controlled the transparent karmic fire and completely suppressed it. After a while, the waves finally calmed down. Looking at the two Tian babies that had calmed down and were quietly staying in the flames at the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron, Chu Luiwei let out a long breath. Almost. If her reaction was a little slower or if she didn't have enough strength, then the two Tian babies would have already broken free. At this moment, Chu Luiwei was very glad that she had broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and had devoured the rich power left behind by the northern underworld Taizu. Otherwise, she really couldn't deal with this situation. This thing is so cunning. Chu Luiwei came back to her senses and stared at the seemingly innocent two-tian baby with a frown. Just now, she had clearly sensed that this thing wanted to take the opportunity to escape. You are refining pills, and most of your energy and attention is placed elsewhere, so your control of the karmic fire is naturally reduced. It's normal that the two-tian baby would choose to try to escape at this time. Compared to Chu Luiwei's nervousness and fear, Dugu Mabao, who was sitting next to her, was much calmer. When you are stronger and have complete control of it, there won't be this trouble. Chu Luiwei's brows twitched. Then, what level do I have to reach? Dugu Mabao glanced at her. Naturally, it's a level that can forge a divine body. Chu Luiwei. Pretend I didn't ask. Dugu Mabao narrowed his eyes. Did this girl think that a two-tian baby was an ordinary item? Although the heavenly square cauldron can help you suppress it, you still have to rely on your own strength to completely subdue it. Chu Luiwei sighed. I know. I just find it a little troublesome. Dugu Mabao's eyes twitched. There were countless experts in the world who wanted to obtain this item but were unable to do so. She had 2 of them, but she actually found it troublesome. You really don't know how lucky you are. If that's the case, then every time I use the heavenly square cauldron to refine medicine, this two-tian baby might come out and cause trouble. Thinking of this, Chu Luiwei looked at the medicinal herbs that had just gathered together with a slight headache. Refining medicine required concentration. Fortunately, this was just the beginning, so she could still spare some energy to deal with this accident. However, if it were to do this in the middle of refining the pill, or at the last moment, then she couldn't guarantee that anything would happen. It won't do this every time. Dugu Mabao paused. Besides, as long as the heavenly square cauldron is here, it won't be able to cause any trouble. Hearing this, Chu Luiwei looked at him with some surprise. Dugu Mabao's evaluation of the heavenly square cauldron was actually so high? She clearly remembered that Taizu had once said that this two-tian baby was an item that only powerful experts had, and it was extraordinarily powerful. If the heavenly square cauldron was more powerful than it, then continue refining medicine. Dugu Mabao glanced outside. The twilight was heavy, and it was quiet. The movement just now didn't spread outside. Don't worry. Chu Luiwei gently nodded and put away this thought. After confirming that the karmic fire below had completely suppressed the two-tian baby, she continued to refine medicine. Fortunately, she had been paying attention to this side just now. The red flame wrapped around the medicinal herbs that had begun to fuse, almost isolating all the fluctuations outside, so it was not affected. Chu Luiwei took a deep breath and began to refine the pill. The night passed quickly. When the morning sun shone down and the sky was bright, Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but turn his head to look at the still tightly closed door. This night, there was almost no movement from inside. He waited outside anxiously, but he didn't dare to disturb. What he didn't know was that outside the courtyard, Lu Yue had already arrived with Lu Yi to wait. In order not to disturb the people inside, Lu Yue deliberately didn't let anyone report and just waited with Lu Yi by the wall. Time passed little by little. Lu Yi gradually became a little impatient. Sister, you are now the mistress of the Lin family. Can't you just say where you want to go? Why do you have to compromise like this? Look at Lin Qifei's eyes. After dismissing the servants, Lu Yi finally couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Lu Yue glared at him. What do you know? This was the only way she could stand on the high ground. Lin Qifei was Lin Tianfeng's favorite son. If he did something excessive, Lin Tianfeng couldn't bear to criticize him. If it weren't for Lin Tianfeng's connivance, would Lin Qifei dare to do this? On the surface, it seemed that she bowed her head to Lin Qifei, but in fact, she was giving Lin Tianfeng face. What was a little grievance? As long as she could make Lin Tianfeng feel guilty, wouldn't it be easy to get whatever he wanted in the future? It was thanks to this that she could reach her current position. She relaxed her expression and said, "The celestial physician inside is refining pills, and Master is helping to protect him." When this pill is completed, it might be able to cure fourth young master's illness. Lu Yi sneered. What celestial physician? How many celestial physician has Lin Qifei seen over the years? Even the chief celestial physician of the Lin family, the first elder, can't do anything. That's a genuine 9th grade celestial physician. What can the others do? He vaguely heard that this celestial physician was found by himself. If she really had the ability, why would she do this? Don't talk so much. Lu Yue reminded him. You'd better think about what to say to old master when you see him later. Lu Yi choked, and only then did he stop. At this moment, a wave of energy suddenly came from the courtyard. Buzz. A crisp and melodious sound of collision was heard. Very quickly, a strong medicinal fragrance also spread out. Lu Yue took a deep breath. She felt refreshed and comfortable all over. Immediately, her eyes widened in shock. How can this be a 7th grade pill? This wave, this smell, it's definitely not something a 7th grade pill can have. In the courtyard, Lin Tianfeng was also at a loss. Creak, the door opened. A slender and tall figure walked out from within. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly stepped forward. Chu Liuyue's face was a little pale, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes, but there was a satisfied smile at the corner of her mouth. Patriarch Lin, fortunately, I didn't disappoint. As she spoke, she handed over a jade box. A crimson medicinal pill was quietly lying within. 8 lines could be seen clearly. Lin Tianfeng sucked in a cold breath. An 8th grade pill? Chapter 1042. Although the 8th line looked much fainter than the previous lines, it was still there. This was indeed an 8th grade pill. Lin Tianfeng almost thought that he had seen wrongly. He stared at the pill several times, still unable to come back to his senses. Didn't you say that you were a 7th grade celestial physician? Chu Luiyue smiled brightly. I was indeed a 7th grade celestial physician back then, but I didn't say that I couldn't refine an 8th grade pill. Since I succeeded this time, then I should be considered an 8th grade one. Chu Luiyue stroked her chin thoughtfully as she spoke. She was actually quite surprised, because the pill she was going to refine was indeed an upper 7th grade pill. But perhaps it was because the herbs were of superior quality, or perhaps it was because she used the heavenly square cauldron. In any case, when she came out in the end, she went up a level and barely reached the lower 8th grade. This was a pleasant surprise. Lin Tianfeng. She was a 7th grade celestial physician back then? But now she refined an 8th grade pill? Did she break through the shackles and become an 8th grade celestial physician in just one day and night of refining this pill? How could there be such a thing in the world? Lin Tianfeng thought that he was someone who had seen great storms, but when he saw the nonchalant smile of the girl in front of him, he was speechless. He wanted to say something, but his throat tightened. The cultivation of a celestial physician was much more complicated and difficult than that of a martial artist or a Xian master. Not to mention the majority of those without talent, even those who were lucky enough to be born with some talent in celestial physician cultivation had a particularly difficult path. An 8th grade celestial physician and a 7th grade celestial physician were worlds apart. He had seen countless celestial physicians who were stuck at this step their entire lives, unable to break through the barrier until their deaths. But Duguyu didn't seem to care about this at all. Chu Luiyue closed the jade box, and the rich medicinal fragrance was instantly blocked. However, there was still a lingering fragrance in the air. Just a light sniff was enough to make one feel comfortable. Miss Dugu is indeed amazing. She succeeded in refining the pill on her first try. At this moment, Lin Qifei also walked out of the room next door. It was probably because Chu Liwei had been taking care of him for the past 2 days that his originally pale and haggard face looked much better. Currently, he was standing with his hands behind his back. His handsome face was carrying a faint smile. At first glance, he truly looked like a rare noble. Chu Liwei raised his eyebrows slightly and walked over with a smile, offering the jade box. This is only the first pill. You will need to continue to treat it, and the process will be more difficult. I hope that fourth young master will be more forgiving. Lin Jifei took the elixir, his thin lips slightly hooked. If I can exchange it for my life, then this pain is nothing. However, this time, I owe you a favor. Although Duguyu said that her help was to repay him for helping her in the gate realm of the divine ruins. However, it was just a small matter for him, while she was doing him a great favor. Although she had her own considerations, but, to him, those were not important. The important thing was that she had still helped him a great deal. Chu Liyue smiled. Fourth young master is too polite. She had no relatives in the divine ruins. If she could establish a relationship with the Lin family, it would undoubtedly be much more convenient. In particular, Lin Qifei was much more powerful than he appeared to be. If she could make him owe her a favor, there would be no disadvantages. At this moment, the servant came forward and said carefully, Patriarch, Mistress has been waiting outside with young Master Lu for a while. You see, previously he didn't dare to come over to report. Now that he saw that Chu Liyue had finished refining the pill, he came over to ask for instructions. When Lin Tianfeng heard that Lu Yi had also come, he subconsciously frowned and glanced at Lin Qifei. However, Lin Qifei didn't seem to care. Father, if you have something to do, just do it. Lin Tianfeng wanted to say something but stopped. He originally wanted to wait for Lin Qifei to use this pill and see the effect before leaving. But he didn't expect Lu Yue and the others to come so early. Then I'll go and take a look first and then, he paused and looked at Chu Liyue. After that, I'll have to trouble Miss Dugu to take care of Jifei's body. Chu Liyue nodded gently. Patriarch Lin, don't worry. Only then did Lin Tianfeng feel relieved and leave. Fourth young master, I'll accompany you in. After taking this pill, there may be some reactions. It'll be easier for me to deal with it by your side. Chu Liyue said. The previous 2 days were all small fries. Now, this medicinal pill was the real main event. Whether Lin Qifei's body could withstand it or not was another matter. Since she agreed to help, of course she would take responsibility. However, when Lin Qifei heard this, he suddenly smiled. No hurry. There was a slight ripple in his clear and distant eyes. It won't be too late to use the pill after Miss Dugu's problem is solved. Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat and she looked up at him. The two's eyes met, and undercurrents surged. After a moment, Chu Liyue raised her eyebrows and smiled. Then, thank you, fourth young master. On the other side, Lin Tianfeng had already walked out of the courtyard and saw Lu Yue and her brother waiting by the side. Looking at the two of them, it seemed that they had been here for a long time. Before Lin Tianfeng spoke, Lu Yue had already stepped forward and asked with a concerned face. Master, is the pill done? Is there a cure for Jifei's illness? Hearing her concern for Lin Qifei, Lin Tianfeng was comforted and the coldness on his face gradually melted. He nodded. It's done. But as for the specific effects, we still need to see the follow-up. Although Duguyu looked very powerful, he didn't dare to boast before trying the pill. What if he was disappointed in the end? That's good, that's good. Lu Yue patted her chest gently and looked relieved. Seeing this, Lin Tianfeng thought that he had been impatient with her for the past 2 days because he had only cared about Jifei. He felt a little guilty and looked at Lu. Your sister said that your men were beaten up yesterday. What happened? Since he was willing to ask, it meant that he was willing to use the Lin family's power to help. Lu Yi nodded quickly and said, That's right. My 8 subordinates were all beaten unconscious yesterday, stuffed into boxes, and sent to my door. Furthermore, the tendons in their arms and legs had been severed. Brother-in-law, the weakest of my men is a rank 8 warrior. But they were harmed just like that. You must uphold justice for me. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Then, do you know who the person behind the scenes is? Lu Yi was not afraid of Lu Yue reprimanding him at this time. Since it had already come to this, he directly said, It's an outsider. Her name is Duguyu. It's her. She crippled 8 of my men. Brother-in-law, she dared to do this to me. She clearly doesn't put you and the Lin family in her eyes. You must not let her go. Chapter 1043. When Lu Yi said the word outsider, Lu Yue knew something was wrong and secretly glared at him. No wonder he didn't want to say it before, it turned out to be such a disaster. Needless to say, it must be that he went to find trouble with the other party first, and finally forced the other party to kill him. That led to today's situation. She had warned him not to be so presumptuous, but he didn't change. Now, he even dared to hide it from her, and only told the truth in front of Lin Tianfeng. Lu Yuer scolded him in her heart, but in the end, he was her brother. Now, there was no other way. If she didn't help him, what else could she do? However, just as she was thinking about how to help Lu Yi, she heard a familiar name. Dugyu. Lu Yuer's eyes widened in shock, and she looked at Lu Yi in disbelief. Who did you just say? Lu Yi glanced at her. Du, that's her name. I've already sent someone to check. Lu Yuer's heart trembled violently, and with the last glimmer of hope, she asked in a trembling voice. What does she look like? Please don't be. She looks ordinary, but she has a purple-haired and purple-eyed child, so it's easy to recognize her. As long as brother-in-law is willing to help, we'll find her soon. Lu Yuer's eyes darkened, her legs went soft, and she almost fell to the ground. It's actually that Dugyu. Lu Yi was talking well, but seeing her like this, he quickly went to help her. Sister, why are you? Lu Yuer pushed him away, her face was filled with suppressed anger. Are you done? Lu Yi was even more confused. What's wrong? Wasn't she talking well just now? Why is she so angry in the blink of an eye? He quickly glanced at Lin Tianfeng, but saw that his expression was also very strange. Lu Yi realized that something seemed to be wrong, and his originally proud momentum was suppressed, and his heart was a little nervous. How? You want to find Dugyu? Lin Tianfeng suddenly asked. Lu Yi nodded subconsciously. That woman is very cunning. If you can help. Before he could finish, a crisp female voice suddenly sounded. There's no need to trouble Patriarch Lin with such a small matter. When Lu Yi heard this voice, he faintly felt that it was somewhat familiar and subconsciously looked up. A woman was slowly walking out of the courtyard. Her appearance was ordinary, her eyes were like stars, and the corners of her mouth held a hint of a smile. Unexpectedly, she also had a noble charm. Beside her, there was a cute, purple-haired, purple-eyed child following closely behind her. After seeing the scene in front of him, Lu Yi suddenly widened his eyes in shock and raised his hand to point at the approaching woman. I'm right here. Why does young Master Lu have to waste time looking for me? Chu Luiyue walked over with Dugu Mabao and stopped 5 steps away from them. Lu Yi almost couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't help but shout in shock and anger. Why are you here? Why can't I be here? Chu Luiyue blinked. Could it be that this is also your territory? Lu Yi choked and hurriedly glanced at Lin Tianfeng. What nonsense are you talking about? Since it's not, then what does it have to do with you that I'm here? Chu Luiyue asked slowly. Lu Yi's eyes wandered back and forth between them. He couldn't help but say, You killed my people and you still have the nerve to ask this? You're such a venomous woman. You're ruthless. Tell me, you're here to harm people, aren't you? That must be it. Lu Yi shouted unwaveringly. You're just a lowly outsider. You actually want to rebel in this cave heaven cliff? Chu Luiyue looked at him in a seemingly smiling manner as if she were looking at an idiot. Young Master Lu, why don't I understand what you're saying? I harmed your subordinates. Why would I harm them for no reason? Of course it's because they went. Halfway through his words, Lu Yi realized that something was wrong and suddenly shut his mouth. If he really said it out loud, then he was the one who was in the wrong. Lin Tianfeng didn't like him very much. After knowing the ins and outs of the matter, he definitely wouldn't intervene in this matter. How would I know why you would do such a thing to them? It's just that you're too vicious. 8 people, and you didn't let any of them go. You, young Master Lu, did I hear wrong? You mean I alone beat up 8 of them? And I even won? Chu Luiyue chuckled as if she had heard a joke. You think too highly of me, don't you? Lu Yi was half dead with anger. They're still in my residence. Do you dare to confront them? That's not necessary. Chu Luiyue's smile faded slightly. That scene must not be very good. I'm not interested. As soon as these words came out, Lin Tianfeng and Lu Yue also looked at Chu Luiyue. These words, "You admit it?" Lu Yi took a step forward. His face was full of anger. His face was red, and his eyes were burning with anger. Chu Luiyue tucked the stray hair on her cheek behind her ear and smiled. "Since young Master Lu thinks that I did it, then I did it. But so what? So what?" In Heavenly Cave Cliff, Lu Yi hadn't seen such an arrogant person for many years. He was so angry that he laughed. "Dugiyu, don't tell me you don't know who is standing next to you now? You've done such a thing and you want to pretend that nothing happened?" Lin Tianfeng was the head of the Lin family, and also the cliff master of Heavenly Cave Cliff. And Lu Yue was his sister, and also the matriarch of the Lin family. She hurt her own people, and she dared to admit it in front of these people? She was really tired of living. However, Chu Luiyue didn't seem to care about his threat. She tilted her head, crossed her arms, touched her chin, and looked at Lin Tianfeng. She asked innocently, "Head of the Lin family, are you going to punish me?" Lin Tianfeng choked. At this moment, a light voice came from behind. "Miss Dugu." Several people turned their heads in unison. Lin Qifei was standing in front of the courtyard door. He was tall and slender, and his eyes were distant. "I don't know how to use this medicine. Can I trouble you to help me take a look?" "Digression? Are you demons? When I woke up, I moved up another place. I have to continue at 6 p.m. Don't ask. If you ask, you'll have to update." Chapter 1044. Lin Qifei's appearance broke the stalemate. Lin Tianfeng came back to his senses and looked at Chu Luiyue with a complicated expression. "Miss Dugu, you go and help Qifei first." Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. "Then Master Lu, I will take care of things here. Miss Dugu, you don't have to worry." Lin Tianfeng's voice was not loud, but there was a trace of dignity in his tone that could not be disobeyed. "Thank you very much, Master Lin." Upon hearing this, Chu Luiyue smiled and decisively turned around to leave. Lu Yi's heart skipped a beat. Is he not going to pursue Duguyu's fault? "Brother-in-law, she injured 8 of my men. How can I just let it go like this?" Lu Yi said as he was about to chase after her. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Lu Yue knew that something bad was going to happen. She quickly stretched out her hand and pulled Lu Yi back. She warned him, "Lu, Miss Dugu is Ji Fei's celestial physician. She has a heavy responsibility on her shoulders. You can't mess around anymore." Hearing this, Lu Yi finally understood why things were so wrong. He gasped and asked in disbelief, "Sister, what did you say?" "Dugu. She is the celestial physician who took the initiative to treat Lin Qifei 2 days ago? Of course it's her. Isn't it clear enough?" Lu Yi was stunned. How is this possible? When he met that woman 2 days ago, she was just an outsider with no identity or background. How long had it been she had become Lin Qifei's celestial physician? So she was the attendant who would go with the Lin family to the saint's birthday banquet. The sudden truth made Lu Yi's mind go blank. Although he was reckless and impudent, he was not completely brainless. If it was any other celestial physician, it would be fine, but now, she was Lin Qifei's celestial physician. And from the looks of it, Lin Tianfeng seemed to trust and protect her. Even Lin Qifei spoke up for her, which was a rare occurrence. Lu Yi knew very well that although he seemed to be lawless at Grotto Heaven Cliff, he was actually relying on the protection of the Lin family. Whether it was Lin Tianfeng or Lin Qifei, they were definitely not people he should publicly offend. After Chu Luiyue left, Lin Tianfeng looked at the two of them. He quietly broke away from Lu Yue's arm. Lu Yue's heart sank. She hated herself for not asking clearly before. She had actually caused such a big commotion in front of Lin Tianfeng. You already knew about this?" Lin Tianfeng asked calmly. I don't know." Lu Yue immediately denied with tears in her eyes. "I asked him before, but he refused to tell me. He said he had to see Master and ask for justice before he would tell me." "Who knew? If she knew, why would she bring Lu Yi here?" Lin Tianfeng turned a blind eye to her crying. Of course she didn't know, Otherwise she wouldn't have done such a thing. Lin Tianfeng didn't pay much attention to Lu Yue. Instead he looked at Lu. Lu Yi trembled. You just said that you injured all 8 of your men? Lin Tianfeng asked. Lu Yi nervously swallowed and nodded. Lin Tianfeng stared at him. That's good. Tell me, how did you send those 8 men to deal with her? Thank you for your help, 4th princess. Walking into the room, Chu Luyue directly thanked him. Lin Qifei sat down, his expression still indifferent. It's just a small matter, no need to mention it. Chu Luyue raised an eyebrow. She had been in the Lin mansion for 2 days, so she more or less understood Lin Qifei's character and the Lin family's situation. Lin Qifei's words seemed simple, but it showed everyone that he was on her side. So, the balance in Lin Tianfeng's heart was naturally on her side. It would be difficult for Lu Yi to make trouble again. You saved me a lot of trouble. Chu Liyue said. Lin Qifei smiled and took out the pill. Can we start now? Chu Liyue's expression was slightly serious, and she nodded slightly. Under Chu Liyue's gaze, Lin Qifei took out the pill and swallowed it. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, and in an instant, it turned into a hot stream of air and flowed down. In an instant, it filled his entire trachea and quickly spread to his organs. In a short while, Lin Qifei's face and body had turned red. Dense stabbing pain came from all parts of his body. It was as if there were ants gnawing on his yuan meridian. The numbing pain was unending. Smack! Lin Qifei directly swept the things on the table next to him to the ground. Draw the force out of the pill of origin and circulate it in a small cycle. Chu Liyue shouted in a low voice. Lin Qifei gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and began to forcefully circulate the force in his body. An even more bone-piercing pain came from his body. Almost all of his yuan meridian was deposited with this strange substance, and at this moment, the pill's effect had turned into a hot stream of air that poured into his yuan meridian, almost completely occupying it. So, when he began to circulate the force in his body, it meant that he had to control the force to pass through this fiery hot stream of air. In this process, his force would inevitably come into contact with the already fragile yuan meridian. It was also because of this that he felt extreme pain. This feeling was as if countless sharp blades that had been roasted by fire were scraping off his yuan meridian. Soon, a trail of blood flowed out from the corner of Lin Qifei's mouth. However, this trail of blood was black. Chu Liyue's gaze focused. Lin Qifei's illness had dragged on for too long, and it was impossible for him to completely recover in one go. However, if he wanted to improve, he had to be bold and decisive. So, he had to suffer this pain. To Lin Qifei, this was probably the most difficult time in his life. Every minute and every second was long and painful. His strength seemed to have been exhausted, and his entire body was in so much pain that it was almost numb. However, whenever his mind started to become muddled because of this, there would always be a clear and bright voice that would sound. The force is already halfway through. 4th young master, continue. The 5 treasures have already passed, and it will be over soon. There is only one step left to complete a small cycle. This voice made him wake up time and time again. Even he himself did not know how he had endured it. In the middle, he vaguely felt as if there was a warm stream of energy pouring into his body, allowing him to recover much of his strength. He wanted to open his eyes, but it was too painful and too tiring. Moreover, he was constantly urged to continue. He knew who was speaking. So, he gritted his teeth time and time again, struggling with all his might to endure it. After an unknown period of time, he finally could not hold it in any longer, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Liyue immediately looked over. In the pool of black blood, there was a bead. This was it. Chu Liyue waved his wrist, and a flame quickly flew out, instantly enveloping that bead. Chapter 1045. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The bead was trying to escape, but it was stopped by Chu Liyue's barrier. It fell to the ground again, mixed in with the messy blood stains. If one did not look carefully, it would be hard to notice. Chu Liyue waved his finger, and a blazing flame flew out instantly. It formed a fist-sized ball, completely trapping the bead inside. Then, the fireball floated up lightly and landed in Chu Liyue's palm. Chu Liyue carefully examined the bead inside. It was only the size of a soybean, and because it was covered in bloodstains, he could not see its exact appearance. However, Chu Liyue could clearly feel that it contained a shocking amount of energy. And this thing was the main culprit that caused Lin Qifei's serious illness. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Qifei coughed violently. Chu Liyue turned around to take a look. Fourth young master, how do you feel now? Lin Qifei coughed for a while before straightening his back. His face had turned from its initial blood-red color to extremely pale. Only the bloodstains at the corner of his mouth and chin made him look even more haggard. However, his eyes looked much more spirited than before. I'm fine. Lin Qifei waved his hand and looked at her palm as he spoke. When he saw the strange bead that was trapped by the fireball, his expression changed slightly. What is this? Fourth young master should be very familiar with this thing. After all, it has been in your body for decades. Chu Liyue's words made Lin Qifei's eyes widen in shock. You mean, that's right. It's its existence that caused the strange changes in your Yuan meridian. Chu Liyue glanced at the bead, narrowed his eyes dangerously and laughed softly. This thing seems to be able to devour the Yuan meridian, causing a deficiency in one's qi and blood. Fortunately, fourth young master has a high-grade Daijing Yuan meridian, or else, you might not even be able to hold on. Lin Qifei frowned. What is this? Chu Liyue shook his head. I don't know. However, when he took her pulse earlier, he vaguely guessed that there was such a thing. At that time, I wanted to get rid of it directly, but it was very strange and agile. It created countless clones in your Yuan meridian and I couldn't capture it immediately. So, the most important thing in the pill you helped me refine just now is actually your own force. Lin Qifei asked. Chu Liyue laughed and admitted frankly. Fourth young master is indeed smart. Actually, she had injected a stream of her flame into the pill. The greatest use of those medicinal herbs was to cushion the power of the flame she had left behind. If Lin Qifei's illness could be cured with just a level 8 pill, then the celestial physician of the Lin family would have done it long ago. How would it be her turn to do it? She had purposely asked Lin Tianfeng to get the herbs and let him guard her personally. In fact, it was all just a gimmick. No one knew that using the pill to save his life was a lie, but injecting the flame to force the bead out was real. This was also why she had been urging Lin Qifei to circulate his force. Only when both sides were pressuring each other could the thing have no way out. A look of understanding flashed across Lin Qifei's eyes, but at the same time, a trace of doubt appeared. Miss Dugu came to visit me earlier. Could it be that she already knew that she could use this method to help me? His voice was still a little weak, but this question was very important. Chu Liyue blinked. Fourth young master, are you suspecting me? Of course not. Lin Qifei immediately denied. I'm just a little curious, how on earth was she so sure that she could do it without even taking his pulse? Chu Liyue smiled but didn't say anything. She couldn't possibly say that she was so confident because she knew that the power of the water bead in her body was too strong, could she? Seeing her reaction, Lin Qifei immediately said, Of course, if Miss Dugu can't say it, then I won't ask again. He could vaguely guess that there was an extraordinary power hidden in the body of the girl in front of him. It was normal that she didn't want to say it. Chu Liyue rather admired Lin Qifei's tact. It was always easier to deal with smart people. Since this thing has been removed, then the rest is a small problem. There's still a part of it in your Yuan meridian. We can slowly deal with it later. As long as you take good care of yourself, fourth young master will recover very quickly. Lin Qifei looked at the girl in front of him with a relaxed expression and listened to her speak slowly. For a moment he felt a little dazed. He couldn't help but clench his hands. Just like that? Yes. Chu Liyue sized up his expression. It was rare for him to show such a blank and weak expression, so much so that others could see through his thoughts. Although it sounds simple, this series of things still requires quite a bit of effort to carry out. However, I will be by your side for a period of time, so fourth young master doesn't need to worry. Just rest well. Lin Qifei nodded subconsciously. Thank you. Actually, I just feel that everything happened too suddenly. All these years, he had always thought that he didn't have long to live, so he was indifferent to everything. This time, when he returned from the outside world, he was already prepared to die. Who knew? He stared at the bead. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked in a soft voice. He asked softly, "So you're saying that this illness wasn't born with me?" Chu Luiwei pondered for a moment. "If I'm not wrong, this bead should have entered your body not long after you were born. It lay dormant for many years and unknowingly dragged you to your current state." However, she raised her eyes slightly and paused. "This is definitely not an illness that came from the mother's womb." Lin Qifei lowered his head slightly. His pale and thin face looked especially haggard and lonely at this moment. After a long time, he finally let out a long sigh. So that's how it is. He had always thought that it was his fault that caused his mother's tragedy, but he didn't expect. The incomparably heavy stone that had been pressing down on his heart for many years suddenly seemed to have been removed, allowing him to relax. This was premeditated by someone in the dark. But soon, his face darkened again. If it wasn't him, then it must be someone else who had secretly planned all of this. Mother's death and his illness. I wonder if Miss Dugu can tell the origin of this bead? He raised his eyes and asked. Hearing this, Chu Luiwei looked at the bead again. At this time, the flames had already burned away the blood on it. This was a completely black bead, and there didn't seem to be anything special about it. Suddenly, Chu Luiwei's eyes focused. There seems to be a picture on it. No. This seems to be a totem. Digression, it's the end of the month. Don't forget to vote if you have tickets. Next update, about 7 o'clock. This month's star of the monthly votes. There are already 40 competitors for the monthly votes, but there are still no clear competitors in Book City. Are all the people in Book City so Buddhist? Please join the verification group as soon as possible if you want to get first place in the monthly votes or the recommendation votes. The first place will be sent out personally in February. The same goes for the comment star. The list will be announced in early September. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.